President Trump reminds me of a friend who has a sister who is a drug addict. And she borrowed money from all her relatives and friends and everybody until the well went dry, and they wouldn't lend her anymore. And now she says that she won the lottery and she's going to pay back everyone with interest. The problem is she didn't win the lottery. It's delusional. The same thing is happening with the fake President Trump. This has been going on for a while now. He says he's got $18 trillion in investment promises from around the world. This is just not true. It's not happening. Nobody's investing anything. Then he says he's got $18 trillion in revenue from tariffs, when in fact his revenue is $238 billion, which is not even enough to cover a month's deficit, trade deficit, or budget deficit for that matter. And now we're seeing some similar delusional behavior as far as Greenland is concerned. He thinks that somehow by grabbing Greenland, which is part of a NATO allied state, that it's going to solve all his monetary problems because they've got all these rare earths. Again, the problem is, even if they do, it'll take 7 to 8 years to develop, and he's got bills coming due on January 31st, so it's not going to be on time. The same with Venezuela. He says, oh, we got all this Venezuelan oil. Yeah, all right, they've been stealing oil tankers, but guess what? U.S. has also had oil tankers stolen from them in the Middle East, so that's not working. And the big attempt to grab Iran's gold, has failed. The real reason for this failed color revolution in Iran was, as I wrote in my weekly report, to grab the Persian gold hoard, which is apparently huge. It's more than the official reserves of the entire world. And remember, the official reserves are only gold that was recognized by the Western financial system and has their stamp on it. It's not the real amount of gold in the world. In any case, the rest of the world is not accepting any more IOUs from the United States. They want payment in physical silver or physical gold. And the fact that they failed to grab the gold in Iran means they're desperate. I don't see any way out of it except one, which is to accept the Dragon family offer of $100 trillion. This would be used to finance the Jubilee, to cancel all debt, public and private, in the West, to finance a huge rebuild of U.S. infrastructure, for example, a high-speed train network connecting the whole country, all sorts of things. And also, we would promise that we would cancel all debt, public and private, and everybody would become the owner of their current residence. And landlords would be compensated with the equivalent in rent. And as you know, it's been pointed out, people who actually own their own houses and paid for them will be given an extra reward in the form of ownership of corporations that will be confiscated from the satanic oligarchs who stole it through central bank fraud. So all that is going to happen, but in the meantime, we still have this delusional megalomaniac who thinks he's Donald Trump. He's trying to invoke the Insurrection Act, and here you can watch the head of the Israeli Homeland Security. Remember, Homeland Security's headquarters is in Israel, and we have Christine Noem in this clip. You can watch her talk about what this means is they want to use the military to shoot American civilians in order to impose a dictatorship ruled by their fake Trump. That's what it means. And unfortunately, there's people also working against legitimate law enforcement to try to create a crisis to justify this military takeover. I do believe we need a military takeover, but not one controlled by the satanic Zionists. And you can spot them because they're the ones who are covering up all the Jeffrey Epstein files because they're in them. So, anybody like Pam Bondi or anybody in the current regime that you're seeing on your screens does not belong in public office. Okay. Now, another thing that's going on is just like when the Romanian regime fell with Ceausescu, he kept ramping up repression and ramping it up until him and his whole family ended in front of a firing squad. And we're seeing similar repression in the United States. And for example, I'm pretty sure that the creator of Dilbert, Scott Adams, and we know that was it Jonathan Greenblatt, the CEO of the ADL, is going after people like Tucker Carlson and Candace Owens. And as a result, I've been told that a death warrant has been placed on him and trying to suppress the truth. So another person who I've heard a death warrant has been put on is Lindsey Graham, because he's been calling for the assassination of Vladimir Putin, the sitting head of state. So this is not issued by us. This is issued by someone else. I'm not at liberty to discuss who they are, but they told me that such warrants had been issued. So, the battle is going on, but we are winning. And the control grid is failing. For example, we have the Iranian Foreign Ministry explaining to Fox News that the killing in Iran was carried out by... What's interesting is that it got through onto the U.S. screens, because this whole recipe for color revolution involves causing, first of all, economic turmoil so that people get unhappy. Then they pay protesters and target the anger towards the regime. And then they have people shooting both the police and the protesters to try to get them to fight each other. And they tried this, and instead what happened was the Mossad snipers were taken out, and the Iranian armed forces were able to protect their country and their people. And of course, you won't see that on your Western screens, because unfortunately, these criminals still control the mega corporations, and that's what needs to be taken away from them. We need to remove their control of Google, Microsoft, all the big high-tech companies. They need to be removed from that control. And also, the United States military really, really does need to get back to the real world and live within its means, because right now it is a gigantic parasite. That's the sort of thing that happens when you have a magic money machine, but ultimately it's parasitical. It sucks from the strength of the country you're supposed to be supporting, and that's no way to run a military. If the military is run by sane people, one of the first things they would do is get rid of all those aircraft carriers, because, as the Chinese have pointed out, the Russians can sink them all within half an hour if they want to. They've got the missiles to do that. So militarily, they're expensive white elephants, and they need to be removed, and the money saved should be put on, building hypersonic missiles. This is the sort of thing that needs to be done as soon as we get sane leadership. And again, the last time we offered this $100 trillion from the Dragon family, the forensic trail led to Barack Hussein, Thunder of Satan Obama, who blocked this money from being used to help rebuild America. And this time, the money is being blocked by the Rothschild family, who are using the fake Trump who's been around since June of last year. And that's what's blocking it now. So, we have Jean-Michel de Rothschild posing as Brigitte Macron. We have Nathaniel Rothschild. We have the Edmund de Rothschild Bank. We have Barclays Bank. And we have the Vatican Bank. These are the people who are preventing the rebuilding of the West and refusing the generous offer from the Dragon family to help rebuild Western industry and rebuild Western civilization. But it will happen anyway. We're going to have to let things collapse a bit more. It looks like Israel is being abandoned. Ehud Barak has been spotted fleeing the country. Benjamin Netanyahu has left. And I was told by the Iranians that the satanic racist state of Israel is going to be replaced by the nation state of Judea, which will be a multi-ethnic, multi-religious state, and that the temple will be rebuilt once Judea is established, and the Jewish people will be freed from thousands of years of satanic slavery. This is, to the U.S. military and to the law enforcement agencies. Next question.
Hi, Ben. We'd like to get your thoughts on the current mayor of Minnesota.
You know what? I'm going to skip on that one because I don't have enough knowledge to give you an informed comment, but I will try to do some research on that and talk about it in my next weekly report. Next question.
Hi, Ben. Weekly, you tell that the Chabad death cult is going to be removed, but could you list the names of the individuals running this cult and where their operations are conducted from, if you are aware?
I believe that you could actually look it up online. They're openly listed, and the names are available. But what you have to understand is that Chabad are the army, the brain control army, but the real leadership is the Octagon Group, the Rothschild family, the people at who control the World Economic Forum. But Chabad centers, they for years they say, "Oh, we're just a harmless Jewish group. We mean good," but the reality, as can be seen in their own writings, is that they are been working to kill 90% of humanity. But again, it's all public information. Just look up Chabad, and you'll find a list of all their locations. Next question.
Hi, Ben. Apparently, there's a video by Stuart Swerdlow being interviewed by Nino Rodriguez. States they are wishing to make 3 superstates, Russia, China, and the U.S. They are very much pushing the synagogue of Satan to be in charge, as they speak about some sort of dome. I have zero desire to be ruled by no-hide laws up here in Canada. What are your thoughts about this?
That's not going to work. This plan will fail. We are definitely headed for a multipolar world. So it'll be like any village where we have certain rules. You don't go into your neighborhood, and we all get together to deal with things that we share in common. But it's not going to be some kind of centralized dictatorship like these people are planning. That 3-group idea is not going to work. And personally, since you're in Canada, I'm pushing for Canada to liberate the United States and restore democracy there and good government. I want Canada to take over the United States. Next question.
Ben, we have our last question for today. Since famous entertainers are usually compromised with unpleasant circumstances to make them servile, is it possible actor Timothy Busfield acted against his handlers and is being exposed as punishment? Any evidence that he may be helping the White Hats?
You have to judge from what he's saying. If he's been talking about pedophiles and stuff, then yeah, he's been targeted. But I don't know the details in this case either. Okay, well, that's what I have to say for myself. Was a year that saw a lot of progress in dismantling the satanic globalist elite. They are very, very close to losing power. And if we play our cards right, we should be able to have a new Bretton Woods type agreement this year. But what we need to understand is that the year started out with Donald Trump trying to reform the United States. They had the Department of Government Efficiency. They were doing all sorts of good things. It was going to take over Canada, take over Greenland, take over the Panama Canal. And suddenly, in June, he disappeared at a G7 meeting. And then since then, we've had the fake short, fat Trump who presided over one of the largest military defeats in U.S. history. The United States lost 3 aircraft carriers and ran out of missiles. and basically Israel was militarily finished. And now they're sending me a bunch of fake videos, probably filmed in India, saying that the Iranian regime is going to be overthrown. I don't believe it. Iranian protesters don't go around with CGI generated English placards. Okay, so they sent me a whole bunch of these videos, but I'm not going to bother sharing them with you. I'm asking my Iranian sources, and I'll get back to you on Monday to see what they say about the situation. But just so you understand why you can't trust anything that you see on your screens, and you should always verify. For example, I appear live in front of real people so they can confirm I'm real. I'm not just CGI. But in any case, so there's a lot of faker out there, and the last leaders of the failing rules-based world order are lying through their teeth about the real situation. They're faking their economic statistics, and that is going to lead to their downfall. In Germany, I just got sent some information from German intelligence that the Alice Weidel of the AfD, showed 3 documents showing that Friedrich Merz, first of all, he sent a letter to the bureaucracy saying that they must not publish any negative economic news. So they're ordering them to lie about the real situation in Germany, which is awful. And they sent another letter saying that the bureaucracy needed to cover up crimes committed by foreigners. And then there was a third letter she presented showing that he was soliciting bribes. So Merz may be the first to fall, but we'll see. In England, Keir Starmer was also found to be taking orders from the EU to bring in foreign criminals to cause chaos in the UK. So again, he may also fall. We will see which one falls first. Although maybe my bet is with the French, because the French are taking serious action, especially the farmers. Take a look at this government buildings completely covered in manure in France. It might be that Brigitte Macron, i.e. Jean-Michel de Rothschild, who's probably the head of the snake, is going to have to go, and then all the dominoes will fall. But also in the United States, the fake Trump, he was overruled by the Supreme Court on sending in the National Guard, and they told him the only thing he could do now was to invoke the Insurrection Act. So this could be a civil war in the United States, but my message to the armed forces of the United States is that your commander-in-chief, Donald J. Trump, was replaced in June by a fraud, and you must not obey that person in the White House. It's not your president. And you need to set up some kind of emergency government to help the United States through this transition. Now, I was also going to call for the arrest of a bunch of people, but I think I'll let Archbishop Carlo Vigano speak for all of us when he listen to him, And Archbishop Vigano, I've heard that someone is taking action. There was an explosion in Switzerland that killed over 50 people, and I was told that a very senior member of the globalist elite was killed in that explosion. We don't know who it is yet, but I'm willing to bet it's Larry Fink, but I don't know. I don't have any inside information. All I know is from the CIA that a senior globalist was blown up. And we know that a lot of the globalists are all gathering in Switzerland right now because their financial system is falling apart. They are facing bankruptcy, the entire private central bank cartel. They've run out of gold, and they only managed to keep revive the government, the U.S. government, after 40 days of being shut down by laundering cartel narco money in exchange for silver, and they use that silver to pay the Asians. Now the Chinese have cut off silver, and I don't see how they're going to get past the end of January. We'll see. But remember, the Dragon family is standing by with $100 trillion to help rebuild the West as soon as they get rid of their satanic infection. And take a look at this. If you don't think this is real, take a look at this plaque from the Satanists honoring Minnesota Governor Tim Walz. So you see, the West is satanically infected, and it has to be cured, and that's what we're going to do this year. And there are many ways we can do it, but what each of you can personally do who's watching this is to take your money out of the stock market, get cash, buy real things, try to use this cash as much as possible, but get your money out of their fake financial system. That's very important. That's what you can do. But at a higher level, action is being taken, and a lot of people are going to be removed. We're sure of it. And then we can start. We're hoping that Nigel Farage will be the first leader of the White Hats to take over a major G7 country, and then we're asking him to help convene a new Bretton Woods conference so that we can fundamentally rebuild the post-war international architecture to reflect current realities. We are also calling for a jubilee, a one-off cancellation of debt, a redistribution of assets that were stolen from the people through central bank fraud. That means each of you should get the equivalent of a house, as payment for what they've done to you. And we're also, saying we need to set up a future planning agency so that we are not outcompeted by the Chinese who have such a system. We need to improve our system of economic governance. Right now, it's run by Satan-worshipping pedophile elites who are blackmailed and who only wish to enrich themselves at the expense of others. They are not trying to, build a better world. They're just trying to enrich themselves at the expense of us. That's no way to run an economic system. We need to hire the smartest people who work for you to make your life better the way you want it to be. That's what we're fighting for. So let's try to do it this year. This has gone on long enough. Okay, well, that's what I have to say for myself today. Now I'd like to answer questions from readers and viewers.
Hi, Ben. We have our first question for today. What are your thoughts on the silver export ban from China starting at the beginning of the new year? Is this the final nail in the coffin for the fiat dollar when Western bullion banks are cut off from accessing physical silver?
It could well be. As I said in my talk, the idea is to remove the Khazarian mafia from control of the world's financial system, because that's what decides what we as a species do in the future. And the key to breaking their control is to insist on physical assets and not their paper or their digits on computers. And this is what the Chinese seem to be doing. Cutting them off for anything that's real, and then their whole fake thing will just evaporate. We'll see. But you personally should invest in real things. Get your money out of the bank and buy a car, a house, a stereo, whatever, anything that really exists. That's my advice. Next question.
Hi, Ben. You kind of answered this question already. It looks like a large amount of billionaire investors are pulling out of stocks, citing overvaluation. It seems like you agree with this. If not stocks, what, in your opinion, is the best thing to buy? Is it gold? Is it silver? You did mention property. Are there anything else that you would suggest people invest in?
Well, I think land and housing is the number one. And farmland, so you have a supply of food, because at the end of the day, you can't eat gold and you can't eat silver. And there have been times in the past where no matter how much gold you have, just things that are long lasting. If you don't have a lot of money, maybe just buy a brand new state of the art washing machine or whatever you can afford, but just get something that's real, that personally improve your own life. That's what I suggest. Next question.
Hi, Ben. You mentioned that the explosion at the bar. How do you think this was done? People are describing it as an instant inferno. Was this a bombing, or does it look like more of an advanced weaponry?
I don't know. I'm still making inquiries, but my suspicion was that this was aimed at a specific individual. And then when I asked my CIA connections, they said a very senior member of the globalist elite was eliminated, and I guess Larry Fink, because either Larry Fink or Bill Gates are prime targets because they were recorded saying they have a strong interest in going after these individuals. But I really don't know. I'll try to find out. And I don't know how it was bombed either. Again, it's too early, but there's many different ways you can do that. Next question.
Hey, Ben. It looks like China has started to make military moves to invade Taiwan. Do you see this occurring in the near future? And if it does, what does that look like? Who comes to Taiwan's aid? Who backs China? And who wins?
Uh, I don't think it's going to come to that. What's going to happen, I believe, the head of the Three-Legged Crow Society in Japan died, and they've now selected a new individual. And I'm guessing that the various royal families of Asia are going to have negotiations that will involve reuniting the Korean Peninsula and then sorting out the Japan, Taiwan, China triangle in a harmonious way. But at the end of the day, I think that what will happen is people from the government in Taiwan will be given a senior role running all of China as part of a unification process. And I believe China or Taiwan will be allowed to keep an independent army. But, they're not, I don't think they're going to actually have a war. It's not going to be necessary. Next question.
Hi, Ben. We have our last question for today. What are your thoughts on the Minnesota Somali scam? What is actually going on there? Somalia has one of the world's lowest IQs, so I don't buy that they have figured out how to scam the government by themselves. What sort of inside things are occurring inside of our government to allow them to get away with this?
Uh, I saw one video of a supposed Somali scammer, and I'm telling you, the guy didn't look Somali. He looked Jewish, okay? Dark skinned, but definitely not. The Somalis have a very distinct appearance. I mean, the differences genetically within Africa are much bigger than anywhere else in the world. So different Africans are more different from each other than the Chinese are from the Europeans, for example. And the Somalis have a very tall, distinct features. And I don't think this is really to do with Somalis, although they may be used as a front. I think this is some kind of scam, and I'll try to look more into it. But I agree with you. I don't think it's actual Somalis, but they may be used as fronts. Okay, well, that's what I have to say for myself.
Restored Republic via GCR update as of Judy note. The Brunson lawsuit centers around the certification of the 2020 presidential election and the actions of hundreds of elected officials who allegedly failed to uphold their oath to defend the Constitution. The case names 387 defendants, including Joe Biden, Kamala Harris, Mike Pence and hundreds of members of Congress. According to Brunson, approximately 145 members of Congress, led by Senator Ted Cruz, requested a 10-day delay to investigate allegations of election irregularities before the electoral vote certification proceeded. The lawsuit argues that refusing to investigate those concerns before certifying the election represented a violation of the constitutional oath of office sworn by federal officials. Sunday, 16th of August, 2026, Bombshell Special Report, A Different Battle Has Begun. Lloyd Brunson's explosive constitutional showdown could rock Washington and expose 387 members of Congress. Trump and the global military alliance's fight of good against evil continued. The global emergency broadcast system activation under martial law stood imminent, set to trigger a 3-day event followed by 10 days of communication darkness. During this period 8 billion people and banks worldwide would complete the global currency reset to gold and asset-backed currencies across 209 nations. Military units have mobilized globally for a coordinated strike against the globalist power structure in what was described as the greatest sting operation ever conducted. Every cell phone on the planet was expected to receive 7 trumpet sounds transmitted from Starlink satellites, bypassing elite-controlled media. Normal communications then would cease for 10 days while documentaries explained unfolding events. Banks close, ATMs and credit cards stop functioning. 3 weeks of food and water supplies were advised, though the military stood ready to provide necessities where needed. Continuous broadcasts would educate the public on the principles of freedom and justice. President Trump's global military alliance has been in preparation for this for years, constructing secure satellite networks and communication lines. Trump was set to deliver 7 messages announcing a new era of freedom. More than 500,000 arrests of treasonous pedophile deep state globalists proceeded worldwide. These actors long controlled the global financial system, steadily eroding freedoms in service of the New World Order Depopulation Agenda 2030 while claiming the right to rule. The alliance has countered this since the Lincoln era, selecting Trump to lead the effort. His military alliance more advanced the plan since before the 2016 inauguration. Central to breaking cabal control was the global currency reset, returning taxpayer funds back to the people. The new golden asset-backed quantum financial system of 209 nations was scheduled to go live on Sunday, August 23, 2026, ushering in financial transparency and freedom from prior control. Intelligence further indicated that Obama established a shadow government of radicals through organizations including Organizing for Action and the Obama Foundation, to sabotage Trump, the American people and the Constitution. The senior executive service was weaponized, embedding loyalists nationwide alongside technology companies, mainstream media and academia to form a deep state apparatus. The restored republic under concepts of the original Constitution advanced alongside the GCR. The cabal's financial dominance and ritual abuse networks faced decisive dismantling as the alliance executed the long-prepared transition. What's happening to phones and networks right now? We're talking weird signal drops, random app restarts, or batteries draining way faster than usual over the last few hours. It isn't a technical glitch. Behind the scenes, the largest quantum cleanup in human history was actively underway. Hidden shadow profiles, tracking algorithms and digital surveillance files built by the old system were being permanently erased, along with the old internet. Frequency-based mind control programs have been taken offline permanently. Right now, as devices sync to the new frequency grid, all private data was being migrated over to the UN hackable quantum financial system network. What we thought we knew, but didn't really know and now are supposed to know but don't have a clue. With clones, doubles, made-up movies Hollywood style and Trump's military alliance throwing more popcorn at us, it gets so confusing. Possible timing, 11 Jan. 2021 Stafford Act signed PEDS Act State of Emergency declared, which activates FEMA and DHS, DoD Law of War Manual. Executive Order 13,848, imposing certain sanctions in the event of foreign interference in a United States election. On Monday, July 20, 2026 at 2 o'clock UTC, the SWIFT protocol clearance keys were permanently overridden. The privately owned central banking cartel was legally and physically severed from individual wealth management in the transition to the gold/asset-backed ISO 20022 Quantum Financial System (QFS) standard entered its non-reversible execution phase. On Thursday, August 6, 2026, at 14:23 EST, Trump signed Executive Order 2026-1947, which declassified medbed protocols, allowing them to be released for use of the general public. Distribution to civilian centers begins in September 2026. On Friday, August 7, 2026, at 3:17 GMT, the quantum financial system went live. On Sunday, 9th of August, 2026, Trump unleashed the greatest wealth transfer in history and the old fiat slave system began collapsing in real time. On Monday, August 10, 2026, Trump dissolved the Federal Reserve and IRS, plus activated Nizar Jazara. Tier 4B, US, the Internet Group, protocol for the global currency reset went active. On Wednesday 12th of August, 2026, President Trump gave the green light, activated the Emergency Broadcast System, EBS, ordered the global military alliance to take over the mainstream fake news media and make mass arrests, martial law on Telegram. On Thursday, August 13, 2026, President Trump signed the NEWUPDATE Reset Bill and introduced the quantum financial system to the world. The world is entering a new era of financial innovation. One such advancement is the quantum financial system, QFS, which is more secure, transparent and equitable for everyone. On Saturday 15th of August, 2026 at 5:05 a.m. EST, final confirmation codes were transmitted through the QFS lattice. The night the clocks blinked was the night humanity reset. Trump announced complete restoration of human vitality under the restored republic. On Sunday, August 16, 2026, 10 days of darkness prepare the final media takeover. On Tuesday, September 1, 2026, the quantum financial system officially moves to live global sync. Redemption centers open for the general public. Major banking grids begin quiet shutdown procedures as transactions reroute through the QFS network. The Federal Reserve, IMF, and SWIFT systems will freeze cross-border operations while asset-backed settlements activate in real time. On Sunday 22nd of November, 2026, the new ISO 20022 international banking standards will go into full effect on this 63rd anniversary of the assassination of U.S. President John F. Kennedy, November 22, 1963. Mid-February 2027, under Trump's Patriot Wealth Directive, restitution and reparation, R&R, payouts will begin mid-February, direct gold-backed compensation for IRS fraud, vaccine injury, banking theft, and more. Global Currency Reset, Friday, August 14, 2026. It's official, redemption centers will start processing live appointments in accordance with full Jazara protocol during the first week of September, 2026. The schedule is already being filled with authorized, Tier 4B, participants, according to sources within 2 U.S., NEWUPDATE and Jazara connected on Telegram. Thursday, August 13, 2026. The big call. Bruce said 3 of his really good sources said something major was going to happen on Monday 15th and Sunday 16th of August. We should get notifications then and we start exchanges by Monday, August 17, 2026. Thursday 13th of August. Wolverine call, lots of movement in Reno. I know whales traveling to Reno to get paid and some whales have got paid. These are AAA whales, high level. Sources from the USA, Australia and China all confirmed that this was the week for the release. Amiel Alston. On Saturday 15th of August, 2026 at 5:05 a.m. EST, final confirmation codes were transmitted through the QFS lattice. The night the clocks blinked was the night humanity reset. A secure trinity of nodes, Mount Cheyenne, St. Petersburg and Uluru, reported zero interference. The system is sealed. The future is locked. The banks you once feared, gone. The chains of credit slavery, snapped. In their place, a living system, encrypted by light. Documents at Gitmo confirm, the U.S. has been operating under emergency military governance since 2021. Trump never left. And now, with the final keys turned, the real republic is returning. Every major capital is on alert. London, Vatican, Brussels, stripped of diplomatic shields. The age of deception has collapsed. The age of sovereignty has risen. Welcome to the other side of the storm. Saturday 15th of August, 2026. QFS destroys the central banking system. QFS halts the deep state in its tracks. Global currency reset. Trust the plan. The quantum financial system stands as the most decisive force ever introduced against the central banking debt machine, built to release everyday people from a cycle of financial control that has lasted for generations. What once seemed out of reach has been strategically prepared, a parallel monetary framework designed to replace hidden fiat dominance with transparent, asset-backed transactions. This is not speculation or wishful thinking. It is a calculated reset aimed at restoring direct control of wealth back into the hands of the people. At its foundation, QFS operates through advanced quantum-level verification that cannot be altered, securing every transaction with absolute integrity and traceability. Only currencies backed by real, audited assets and supported by digital gold certificates are allowed to circulate within the system. This structure eliminates theft, blocks covert manipulation, and makes unauthorized financial activity impossible to conceal. The principle is clear: a financial system that cannot be quietly manipulated for personal or institutional gain. The legacy system relied on shadow accounting, untraceable flows, and complex shell structures that concealed misuse while penalizing transparency for decades. QFS runs in parallel, exposing inconsistencies in real time and enabling accountability on an unprecedented scale. Once illicit transactions are identified, those responsible can no longer shield themselves behind bureaucracy or delay tactics. The system itself becomes undeniable proof, forming the foundation for action, recovery, and enforcement. The era of invisible control is rapidly closing. This marks a turning point, a structural transformation intended to restore economic balance and human dignity. Implementation requires precision, validation, and time, but the objective is undeniable: to replace artificial scarcity with asset-backed stability, dismantle centralized control mechanisms, and create a pathway toward restitution and broad prosperity. The direction is intentional, and the outcome is rooted in fairness. Stay alert, demand transparency, and prepare for the transition from a system built on debt to one grounded in value. Saturday 15th of August. 2026 Global Financial Reset Bombshell, QFS, RV, Asset-Backed Currency and Tariffs, U.S. Treasury Center on Telegram, Breaking Special Report, Experts Unpack the Global Financial Reset, Sovereignty, QFS, the RV, Asset-Backed Currency, Tariffs, Energy Abundance and the Proposed Transition Toward a New Financial System. The global economic landscape is undergoing what many observers describe as a profound transformation. In a recent discussion, John Michael Chambers, JMC, Will Barney, Captain Rob Cunningham and Dr. Scott Young examined how economic policy, technology and national sovereignty could converge to challenge the existing fiat financial system. A central argument is that sound money requires national sovereignty. The panel believes restoring constitutional government, securing elections and reducing private financial influence are necessary foundations for a transparent, sovereign monetary system. Energy is another major piece. The speakers argue that oil has long been tied to the petrodollar and global financial control, particularly through OPEC and international banking interests. The proposed shift would decouple energy from monetary policy and pursue energy abundance through expanded production and advanced technologies. Lower energy costs, they argue, would strengthen purchasing power and weaken the debt-based system. The discussion also points to a resurgence of American manufacturing, supported by tariffs and what Will Barney calls the Don Roe Doctrine. Instead of relying primarily on Federal Reserve money creation, the strategy would attract global investment into American factories, infrastructure and technology. The longer-term vision includes potentially replacing or reducing personal income taxes through tariffs, shifting more of the burden away from American labor and toward access to the U.S. market. At the center of the proposed transformation is the quantum financial system, QFS. Unlike a central bank digital currency, CBDC, the panel describes QFS as a system based on verifiable collateral, with currency connected to tangible assets such as gold, silver, land and natural resources. A proposed sovereign wealth fund would use federal resources, including oil, minerals and land, to create a national asset base supporting the currency and benefiting American citizens. The conversation also addresses NESARA/JASARA and the RV, revaluation. 107 challenges claims that citizens possess secret multi-million-dollar straw man accounts linked to birth certificates. Instead, the panel suggests possible wealth repatriation could involve tax restitution or debt restructuring, likely through controlled releases rather than massive one-time cash payments. The road toward 2027 is described as a gradual transition rather than an overnight reset. 107 compares it to a strengthening hurricane, moving from a Category 3 toward a Category 7 as political, financial and institutional changes accelerate. The discussion also raises the possibility of an emergency broadcast system, EBS, event, described as a potential mechanism for bypassing traditional media during the final stages of the transition. Ultimately, the proposed global financial reset is presented as more than a currency change. The envisioned golden age centers on national sovereignty, asset-backed money, energy abundance, American manufacturing, tariffs, sovereign wealth and reduced dependence on debt, fundamentally reshaping the relationship between citizens, government and money. A monumental shift is underway as 300,000 troops are mobilized for the activation of the Emergency Broadcast System, EBS, signaling the commencement of mass arrests, a 10-day truth revelation, and the implementation of JSR's wealth redistribution. Under the guidance of Donald J. Trump and an international military coalition, efforts to dismantle the DS and free humanity are entering a crucial phase. Current developments: the deep state's downfall. Recent intelligence indicates that January was a critical turning point, with February witnessing significant advancements. Military insiders confirm the completion of Phase 0, effectively cornering the DS's loyalists and dismantling their networks. Desperate attempts by the DS to instigate conflicts, economic crises, and health emergencies have been thwarted. Military operations, targeting deep state strongholds. The scale of military operations has escalated dramatically, with forces conducting raids on DS facilities worldwide. Key developments include Starlink's role, dominating the digital battlefield. Elon Musk's Starlink system has become integral to the operation. Its AI, Prometheus, has achieved full operational capability, intercepting DS communications and thwarting cyber attack plans. Starlink satellites are reportedly equipped with EMP capabilities, enabling remote disabling of DS facilities. EBS broadcast, a shocking revelation. The EBS broadcast will unveil startling truths, including robotic leaders. Evidence will be presented showing that several world leaders, including Joe Biden and Emmanuel Macron, were robotic imposters, with dismantled units displayed during the broadcast. Secret space programs, footage of military raids on DS-controlled bases on the Moon and Mars will be revealed, exposing advanced spacecraft hidden from the public. Weather manipulation, devices capable of inducing natural disasters have been seized, revealing orchestrated events aimed at controlling populations. High-profile arrests, a growing list. Recent weeks have seen a surge in high-profile arrests, including Rothschild and Rockefeller family members, detained across multiple nations. Their corrupt financial empires are being dismantled. Hollywood figures, numerous celebrities have gone missing, allegedly detained for their involvement in trafficking networks. Media executives, CEOs of major news networks have been arrested for perpetuating DS narratives and suppressing the truth. JSR activation, a financial revolution. The long-awaited JSR wealth transfer has commenced, with banks being dismantled and the Federal Reserve neutralized. Key developments include debt forgiveness. Individuals in various regions are experiencing the erasure of debts, including student loans and mortgages. Repatriation of stolen wealth. Trillions in offshore accounts linked to the DS are being returned to fund JSR initiatives. Sunday 16th of August, 2026. Breaking, the vaults open, Day 2 of the storm reaches ground zero. Dear 4B ISO 20022 on Telegram, Prometheus AI has successfully stabilized the quantum relay grids, ensuring zero interference from remaining rogue underground nodes. What is unfolding on the screens of billions right now is not just a revelation, it is the systematic dismantling of the matrix control structure. EBS transmission number 002. The Antarctica files and subglacial facilities. Today's scheduled transmission cut deep into the ice. Live feeds and recovered digital ledgers from deep beneath the Ross Ice Shelf in Antarctica exposed joint operations that defied conventional physics. Broadcasted evidence revealed massive subterranean complexes utilized for multi-decade classified projects, including advanced energy and gate tech, documented blueprints and operational footage of interdimensional frequency generators designed to manipulate planetary resonance fields. The Kronos Archives, physical data drives recovered from Station Vostok detailing historical reality manipulation and timeline stabilization experiments conducted since the mid-20th century. The Continuity Protocols, encrypted comms proving how international factions planned generational survival bunkers while orchestrating above-ground resource scarcity. Starlink Override, quantum truth verification active. With the mainstream media networks permanently neutralized, the Prometheus command grid has deployed real-time cryptographic watermarking on all data streams. Every document, video, and audio recording is instantly cross-referenced against the Akashic QFS ledger, verifying 100% authenticity before hitting public screens. No deepfakes. No counter-narratives. Pure, unadulterated reality. Phase 3. Global asset seizure and technocratic neutralization. As the military tribunals continue their second rotation, Alliance Special Forces have locked down major data processing hubs in Zurich, Geneva, and Silicon Valley. Over 12,000 algorithmic control units and synthetic intelligence servers, responsible for predictive behavioral steering and digital censorship, have been permanently wiped. In tandem, financial reconstruction teams have initiated the rollout of sovereign identity tokens. Biometric verification centers are operating 24/7 across North America and Europe, processing citizen onboarding into the Quantum Financial System (QFS) with zero friction. Jazara Phase 3, the global energy grid reset. The energy monopoly has officially fallen. Centralized utility grids are being transitioned to free energy resonance generators, unveiled in newly released Tesla patent archives. Zero-point power, public utility meters are being remotely recalibrated to zero, permanently ending household energy bills worldwide. Infrastructure decentralization, localized quantum nodes are now autonomously managing water, food distribution, and municipal logistics without bureaucratic overhead. Incoming broadcasts, what comes next? Full confessions from synthetic and cloned political stand-ins detailing the replacement protocols of the late 20th century, unedited documentation of the covert space fleet operations and the dismantling of orbital weapons platforms, direct testimonies from whistleblowers within the pharmaceutical command structure regarding suppressed regenerative and anti-aging medical tech. The final public disclosure regarding extraterrestrial diplomatic accords and open integration timelines. The veil has worn thin. The illusion is dust. Stand firm in your sovereignty. The dawn of a restored Earth is here. Christian B. Wallace, Tier 4B. Sunday, 16th of August, 2026, in an interview with DeVry Media, ex-Dutch Illuminati banker, Ronald Bernard, explains how the world is run by Luciferians. His experience in the financial world and impressive contact list, quickly pulled him into the world of the Luciferian elite, where he stayed at the highest level for 5 years. He recounts how he was invited to an elite party, and asked to sacrifice a child to join the cult. But he refused. Ronald Bernard is a heroic whistleblower. What we think we know. As of Monday, August 17, 2026, the arrest of former Southern Poverty Law Center executive Heidi Beirich. She is accused of overseeing secret payments to informants, funneled $1.2 million in SPLC donor money to an informant in a white supremacist group. The fraudulent leftist NGO is being dismantled in real time. Sunday, 16th of August, 2026. Former FBI agent John D'Souza tried to warn us about the real identity of Barack Obama. In 2008, something unbelievable happened for us in the FBI. We were getting lots of rumors about this high-level asset that worked with several intelligence agencies at the same time. He worked for the Saudi Intelligence Service. He worked for the CIA, and he was being developed as a political asset in Chicago, Illinois. It's this individual, whose name I don't like to say, who became President of the United States. One of his code names is Renegade. His real name was Barry Sutara. His mission was to destroy the United States. Sunday, 16th of August, 2026, breaking special report, Kissinger exposed, how Trump dismantled 50 years of British Mideast policy. Sunday, 16th of August, 2026, explosive bombshell, Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent confirms $1 trillion in gold at Fort Knox. The gold is still there. Sunday, 16th of August, 2026, boom. The Kennedy prophecy, Trump reposts JFK's chilling warning to America. The ruthless conspiracy working from within exposed. Sunday, 16th of August, 2026, Space Force, the fall of Corporation America, 50 U.S.C. 1550, Executive Order 13818. Sunday, 16th of August, 2026, explosive report. The United States has been quietly buying Greenland since January. Sunday, 16th of August, 2026, Military Command Report, Trump hands media death warrant, reveal the leaker or go to jail for war crimes. Oh, America was finally waking up to what the Democrat Party had been pushing for years: bigger government, more control, weaker borders, dependence on Washington, attacks on traditional values and contempt for anyone who refused to fall in line. Call it socialism, collectivism, or whatever polished name they invented, the destination was the same: government gets stronger while the individual gets weaker. Americans better recognize the road we're on before there's no road back. 107. On Thursday, August 13, 2026, President Trump countered this dependence on government philosophy by introducing the quantum financial system to the world. The global financial reset that was taking place centered on national sovereignty, asset-backed money, energy abundance, manufacturing, tariffs, sovereign wealth and reduced dependence on debt, fundamentally reshaping the relationship between citizens, government and money. On Friday 14th of August 2026 at precisely 1:57 UTC, every major news outlet, CNN, BBC, MSNBC, went dark, and 2 minutes later by 2 o'clock UTC the emergency broadcast system was live. Starlink's AI command, Prometheus, assumed total control of global bandwidth, rerouting signals and ensuring that no distortion, spin, nor censorship would block the truth. Phase 3, Global Asset Seizure and Technocratic Neutralization. As the military tribunals continue their second rotation, Alliance Special Forces have locked down major data processing hubs in Zurich, Geneva, and Silicon Valley. Over 12,000 algorithmic control units and synthetic intelligence servers, responsible for predictive behavioral steering and digital censorship, have been permanently wiped. In tandem, financial reconstruction teams have initiated the rollout of sovereign identity tokens. Biometric verification centers are operating 24/7 across North America and Europe, processing citizen onboarding into the Quantum Financial System, QFS, with zero friction. Jazara Phase 3, the global energy grid reset. Centralized utility grids are being transitioned to free energy resonance generators, unveiled in newly released Tesla patent archives. Public utility meters are being remotely recalibrated to zero, permanently ending household energy bills worldwide. Localized quantum nodes are now autonomously managing water, food distribution, and municipal logistics without bureaucratic overhead. Incoming broadcasts. What comes next? Full confessions from synthetic and cloned political stand-ins detailing the replacement protocols of the late 20th century, unedited documentation of the covert space fleet operations and the dismantling of orbital weapons platforms. Direct testimonies from whistleblowers within the pharmaceutical command structure regarding suppressed regenerative and anti-aging medical tech, the final public disclosure regarding extraterrestrial diplomatic accords and open integration timelines. Peace. Saturday 15th of August. 2026 breaking, the storm has landed, full spectrum disclosure begins. The silence before the blast is over. On August 14, 2026, at precisely 2 o'clock UTC, the world crossed a threshold it will never return from. Starlink initiated global lockdown of rogue calms. Blackout zones were lit up in red. And then, the signal dropped. The emergency broadcast system entered live operational deployment. 10 days. Unfiltered. Uncensored. Unstoppable. The world is now witnessing, in real time, the collapse of everything it once trusted, and the unveiling of what has always been hidden in plain sight. EBS transmission number 0001, Project Perseus activated. The first wave of footage aired this morning, beginning with military tribunals conducted between 2020 to 2024. Names once thought untouchable now flash across tribunal boards: John Brennan, Christine Lagarde, Klaus Schwab, Hillary Clinton, Yuval Harari. Their crimes. Crimes against humanity. Their verdicts. Sealed, then delivered. Starlink override. All broadcast channels seized. Every major news outlet, CNN, BBC, MSNBC, went dark at 1:57. Their satellite uplinks overridden. The Mockingbird system has been decapitated. Starlink's AI command, Prometheus, has assumed total control of global bandwidth, now rerouting signals exclusively through wide-hat quantum encryption relays. This ensures that no distortion, no spin, and no censorship will block the cascade of truths prepared for a release. Phase 2 begins. The storm goes global. Mass arrests are now underway in Canada, France, Germany, Australia, and Japan. Alliance forces have neutralized over 9,400 deep state assets in the past 48 hours alone. Among them, bankers, scientists, AI architects, and public health officials who orchestrated the biowarfare campaigns disguised as public safety. In a newly aired segment, quantum-verified documents proved the World Economic Forum had issued scripted lockdown protocols years in advance, synced with weather manipulation systems and fiat collapse cycles. The coordination was industrial. The consequences were genocidal. Jazara Phase 2, civilian wealth transfer underway. Newly digitized, gold-backed funds are being injected directly into QFS-verified accounts. Citizens with biometric clearances are receiving notifications for redemption appointments, which include full debt nullification, revaluation exchanges, quantum ID registration, sovereign asset inheritance packages. Private banking cartels have been fully collapsed. Over $84 trillion in cabal-seized offshore assets are now being filtered into public trust funds. These disbursements are pre-coded by nation, population density, and consciousness resonance scores. Incoming broadcasts, what comes next? Footage from secret Antarctica bases showing hybrid experimentation and interdimensional gate tech, confessions from cloned political leaders revealing how long synthetic agents have ruled, recovered documents from Area 51 and Montauk proving time manipulation and reality distortion fields, real-time testimonies from rescued children, shielded until now for their safety, their voices will be heard, you were told to prepare. Now you know why. Q breaking, the vault's open, Day 2 of the storm reaches ground zero. Dear 4B ISO 20022 on Telegram, the 10-day broadcast cascade has passed its initial shockwave, and the global consciousness is shifting from disbelief to absolute awakening. Prometheus AI has successfully stabilized the quantum relay grids, ensuring zero interference from remaining rogue underground nodes. What is unfolding on the screens of billions right now is not just a revelation, it is the systematic dismantling of the matrix control structure. EBS transmission number 002. The Antarctica Files and Subglacial Facilities Saturday's scheduled transmission cut deep into the ice. Live feeds and recovered digital ledgers from deep beneath the Ross Ice Shelf in Antarctica exposed joint operations that defied conventional physics. Broadcasted evidence revealed massive subterranean complexes utilized for multi-decade classified projects, including advanced energy and gate tech, documented blueprints and operational footage of interdimensional frequency generators designed to manipulate planetary resonance fields. The Kronos Archives, physical data drives recovered from Station Vostok detailing historical reality manipulation and timeline stabilization experiments conducted since the mid-20th century. The Continuity Protocols, encrypted comms proving how international factions planned generational survival bunkers while orchestrating above-ground resource scarcity. Starlink override quantum truth verification active. With the mainstream media networks permanently neutralized, the Prometheus command grid has deployed real-time cryptographic watermarking on all data streams. Every document, video, and audio recording is instantly cross-referenced against the Akashic QFS ledger, verifying 100% authenticity before hitting public screens. No deepfakes. No counter-narratives. Pure, unadulterated reality. Phase 3, Global Asset Seizure and Technocratic Neutralization. As the military tribunals continue their second rotation, Alliance Special Forces have locked down major data processing hubs in Zurich, Geneva, and Silicon Valley. Over 12,000 algorithmic control units and synthetic intelligence servers, responsible for predictive behavioral steering and digital censorship, have been permanently wiped. In tandem, financial reconstruction teams have initiated the rollout of sovereign identity tokens. Biometric verification centers are operating 24/7 across North America and Europe, processing citizen onboarding into the Quantum Financial System, QFS, with zero friction. Jazara Phase 3, the Global Energy Grid Reset. The energy monopoly has officially fallen. Centralized utility grids are being transitioned to free energy resonance generators, unveiled in newly released Tesla patent archives. Zero-point power. Public utility meters are being remotely recalibrated to zero, permanently ending household energy bills worldwide. Infrastructure decentralization. Localized quantum nodes are now autonomously managing water, food distribution, and municipal logistics without bureaucratic overhead. Incoming broadcasts. What comes next? Full confessions from synthetic and cloned political stand-ins detailing the replacement protocols of the late 20th century. Unedited documentation of the covert space fleet operations and the dismantling of orbital weapons platforms. Direct testimonies from whistleblowers within the pharmaceutical command structure regarding suppressed regenerative and anti-aging medical tech, the final public disclosure regarding extraterrestrial diplomatic accords and open integration timelines. The veil has worn thin. The illusion is dust. Stand firm in your sovereignty. The dawn of a restored Earth is here. Our Saturday 15th of August. 2026 John D. Rockefeller's secret pact describes, with chilling coldness, an alleged plan for total domination over humanity. Here are the most shocking phrases that emerge from it. 7. We will make them kill each other when it suits us. We will keep them separated from unity by dogmas and religion. 8. We will control all aspects of their lives and tell them what to think and how. We will guide them gently and softly, letting them believe they are guiding themselves. 9. The hatred will be so great that even the smartest among them will not see the truth. 10. When they rise up against us, we will crush them like insects, for they are less than that. 11. Oh yes, the illusion of freedom will be so grand that they will never know they are our slaves. 12. This reality will be their prison. They will live in self-deception. 13. But if they ever discover that they are our equals, we will perish then. That, they must never know. When you read these lines, you can't help but find that they strangely align with many things we observe today. Sunday 16th of August. Explosive bombshell. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent confirms $1 trillion in gold at Fort Knox. The gold is still there. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent has delivered a massive confirmation that shatters decades of deep state and globalist claims about Fort Knox. Over $1 trillion in gold is present, accounted for, and fully secured at the legendary vaults. Rumors that the wealth of the American people had been stolen, leased out, or replaced with tungsten have been destroyed. In alignment with President Donald J. Trump's America First vision, Bessent affirmed the gold remains intact. Discussing Trump's steelmaking, Bessent declared success comes always, always, always. This marks a major reclamation of American sovereignty. Bessent reviewed U.S. currency history, noting silver certificates and notes once backed by physical gold and silver. The 1970s shift to fiat currency ended the requirement to hold metal in vaults. Any remaining outstanding gold or silver certificates still have their physical backing at Fort Knox, Reddiff claimed. Treasury staff and the Treasurer have inspected Fort Knox. Bessent reported all gold is present and accounted for. The United States holds the world's largest gold reserves, valued at over $1 trillion at current prices. Additional gold arrives through recovery efforts from Venezuela, strengthening national holdings. This confirmation acts as a powerful shield against globalist agendas seeking a cashless digital system that would give elites total control. By securing and expanding the physical gold reserves, the Trump administration builds a fortress of real wealth around the American dollar, moving away from the debt-backed fiat system of central bankers. The United States stands with confirmed reserves exceeding $1 trillion, guarded by U.S. Mint police and Army personnel. Venezuelan gold recovery continues. Paper-based elite systems backed only by debt weaken as physical gold reclaims its role. Retirement savers facing inflation, debt, and uncertainty find this confirmation relevant as many examine precious metals for diversification. Tangible assets rooted in gold and silver draw growing interest for long-term stability. The gold is there. Patriots control the vaults. The best is yet to come. God bless America.
Hello Patriots, I'm at Restored Republic via AGCR update compiled by Judy Byington. Global quantum financial system activated. Worldwide freedom from debt. 10 days of worldwide communication darkness imminent, while global military alliance makes mass arrests. Let us pray.
I didn't feel good enough, but I was good enough for God. When I was at my lowest point, I asked God how He felt about me. Am I doing the right thing? Am I a failure? I just remember His answer. You're going to be okay. I have a plan for you. Don't worry. It'll work out. That offered me so much clarity, so much peace, because I realized that I was looking in all the wrong places for appreciation and for fulfillment, when in reality, I just should have just been looking to Him. No one has the debt of understanding. No one has the debt of love, and no one wants your success more than does God.
Judy note. On Thursday, 13 Aug. 2026, President Trump introduced the quantum financial system to the world. I am pleased to share this important message regarding the future of our financial freedom and economic sovereignty. The world is entering a new era of financial innovation. One such advancement is the quantum financial system, QFS, which is more secure, transparent, and equitable for everyone. SMALF 7/status/2 quintillion 88 quadrillion 221 trillion 235 billion 880 million 898,842 equals 20 official statement by President Donald J. Trump regarding the quantum financial system, QFS. The White House, Washington, D.C. 20,500 Thursday. 13 Aug. 2026, to the citizens of the United States. I am pleased to share this important message regarding the future of our financial freedom and economic sovereignty. The world is entering a new era of financial innovation. Emerging technologies are creating opportunities to build systems that are more secure, transparent, and equitable for everyone. One such advancement is the quantum financial system, QFS. I encourage every American to take the time to learn about the benefits of the QFS, including enhanced security for your assets and transactions, real-time transparency and accountability, protection against fraud, corruption, and financial manipulation, and a solid foundation for long-term prosperity and freedom. I urge all citizens to prepare for the transition to the quantum financial system, QFS, and to make the switch as soon as the system becomes available to you. By working together, we can build a stronger, fairer, and more prosperous financial future for generations to come. The time for change has arrived. The future belongs to us, and together, we will make that future brighter than ever before. Sincerely, Donald J. Trump, 45th President of the United States of America, what brought all this on? On Wed 12 Aug. 2026, the day prior to Trump's statement about the QFS, and in order for the financial transition to take place, Trump signed an executive order declaring a nationwide lockdown across the United States, likely to begin Sun or Moon 17 Aug. 2026. The president cited that the reason for the lockdown was a grave and escalating national security threat was being presented. What he didn't say was the actual reason for the security threat was that the QFS activation officially took U.S. taxpayer dollars away from control of the Illuminati Satan-worshipping deep state cabal that they had had since 1913 and gave the monies back for direct use of the people. The cabal didn't like that and was doing everything they could to see it didn't happen. Trump's executive order mandated strict stay-at-home orders for all citizens, suspended non-essential travel, and mobilized federal resources to enforce the measures. During that time, Trump's global military alliance was making mass arrests of the cabal. Live. Trump to America. Lockdown now. Immediate order sends shockwaves across nation as of Fry. 14 Aug. 2026, the entire world was under martial law. Over 80,000 military operations units were deployed in financial political capitals. The transition to worldwide martial law is now 100% complete. The military had complete oversight of critical infrastructure, and the old cabal power structure was unable to recover or communicate. The Global Military Alliance has initiated full seizure of the mainstream media broadcasting networks and corporate news headquarters in order to implement emergency truth transmissions according to Tier 4B ISO 20022. 14 Aug. 2026, ITBGINS, military tribunals, secret operations, and the silent war to save the Republic. The Military Commissions Act is now active. 14 Aug. 2026, explosive report, 500,000 SEALED indictments. The justice avalanche waiting to fall, the beginning of the quantum financial system. They laugh now. They won't later, said Dr. Charlie Ward, who in 2016 oversaw President Trump's order to take 650 plane loads of gold from beneath the Vatican and returned it to its rightful owner, the U.S. Treasury. It marked the beginning of the quantum financial system and transfer of the people's monies from the Satan-worshipping deep state cabal back to use of the peoples of the world. 3 years ago, I told you this was coming. Now it's here. When we started on our walks in southern Spain as the sun came up, I told you the deep state cabal were going to shut down the world's economy for a global financial reset to their digital fiat monies. That's where we are right now. For those just waking up, it's all happening. This isn't an accident. This is a plan. They're destroying the world's economy. Fuel prices up. Food supplies stopped. Big business boosted, small business destroyed. Only this time the world's economy won't be saved by the deep state cabal's fiat monies that have been used to control the people since the Civil War. Trump and his global military alliance, along with the BRICS nations, were in the final stages of installing gold asset-backed currencies in 209 nations that traded at a one with each other. Back on Mon. 20 July 2026, at 02:00 UTC, the SWIFT protocol clearance keys were permanently overridden. The privately owned central banking cartel was legally and physically severed from individual wealth management, and the transition to the gold asset-backed ISO 20022 quantum financial system, QFS, Standard entered its non-reversible execution phase according to an internal U.S. Treasury memo on that date. The transition begins. Your bank account won't disappear. Your money won't vanish. But the system that enslaved you will be dead. The Federal Reserve, finished. The IRS, finished. The old financial order, finished. Quantum Financial System, QFS, is the only way out. There were a lot of secret military operations taking place across the world in order for the QFS to be put in place. Massive military sweeps across elite private islands and subterranean facility networks has confirmed complete neutralization of rogue operations and underground human logistics nodes. Interpol and Global Military Command have executed simultaneous raids on Central Intelligence black site archives, recovering decades of hidden financial records, blackmail vaults, and direct order logs. International shipping hubs and port authorities have been placed under strict military quarantine to prevent high-profile elites from escaping via private maritime fleets and diplomatic aircraft. Over 80,000 military police and special operations units have been deployed across major financial and political capitals to secure critical infrastructure during the ongoing global transition. On Moan, 10 Aug. There was a full deactivation of global satellite communication backbones used by corporate media and deep state command cells. Allied command structures have confirmed that the asset recovery and trials infrastructure was operating at full capacity. Compromised executive boards and corrupt political figures were being transferred directly to secure facilities. Pharma executives and FDA elites face mass tribunals under martial law for crimes against humanity. Big Pharma death industry collapses overnight as healed child survivors testify live. There has been a full deactivation of global satellite communication backbones used by the corporate media and deep state command cells. Space Force defense units have neutralized foreign satellite infrastructure used by elite cabal networks for encrypted command and control operations. Covert deep state subterranean facilities and encrypted data servers have been compromised and secured by joint intel units. These sites, previously used to run mass surveillance and manipulate global narratives, are being dismantled piece by piece to cut off all remaining control channels. Top-tier architects of the old corporate media matrix were being removed from key positions as global broadcast networks face emergency seizures. Declassified communicator logs reveal decades of coordinated censorship and psychological operations directed at suppressing alternative technologies and free energy innovations. The rollout of advanced Tesla-based power grids is accelerating behind the scenes, designed to render obsolete the centralized, high-cost utility monopolies. Localized resonance harvesters are replacing the fragile, debt-ridden grid infrastructure to ensure permanent energy independence for all sovereign regions. Secure satellite hubs were now fully active, replacing compromised fiber optic backbones with quantum-encrypted data streams. This new independent network will host the upcoming unfiltered archives, exposing every hidden contract, illicit patent suppression, and covert operation run by the cabal. The final phases of the systemic restructuring were unfolding. The old paradigm was gone. The takedown of the centralized information and energy monopoly is complete. The new freedom infrastructure is live. Martial law locks down remaining globalist sabotage against the rollout. Emergency quantum broadcast networks were prepared to stream unedited evidence logs and witness testimonies across all intercepted channels worldwide. 10 days of darkness begin the final media takeover, success, and century of cabal crimes. When the EBS goes off over cell phones across the world, 10 countries will be running it to cover the Earth. There will be 10 days of documentaries running in 3 8-hour sessions per day. The documentaries will be shown in 22 different languages and were set to cover the elite military tribunals and their confessions of crimes.
What we thought we knew but didn't really know, and now are supposed to know but don't have a clue. Friday, August 14, 2026, Pastor Bob Joyce admits he's Elvis Presley. Friday, August 14th, White House bombshell. The Capitol restored. The White House has unveiled an epic Game of Thrones style video showcasing Trump's vision for Washington, D.C. Mechanical monuments rise, restored landmarks dominate the Capitol, and the journey ends inside the Oval Office. The message is unmistakable. The Capitol restored, order restored, the Capitol reclaimed. Washington's transformation takes center stage. Just 1 year since the Make D.C. Safe and Beautiful Task Force began, Washington, D.C. is a safe city. 6,000 arrests. Thank you, President Trump. FBI Director Kash Patel explains.
Possible timing. Unknown. 20 July 2026 at 02:00 UTC, the SWIFT protocol clearance keys were permanently overridden. The privately owned central banking cartel was legally and physically severed from individual wealth management, and the transition to the gold asset-backed ISO 20022 quantum financial system, QFS, standard entered its non-reversible execution phase. 17 GMT, the quantum financial system went live. On Sun. 9 Aug. 2026, Trump unleashed the greatest wealth transfer in history, and the old fiat slave system began collapsing in real time. On Moan. 10 Aug. 2026, Trump dissolved the Federal Reserve and IRS, plus activated Nesara Jasara. Tier 4B, US, the Internet Group Protocol for the Global Currency Reset went active on SAT. 15 Aug. 2026, Trump announces complete restoration of human vitality under the restored republic. Zim redemptions accelerate new healing centers in every nation. On Sun. 16 Aug. 2026, 10 Days of Darkness prepare the final media takeover. On Twos. 1 Sep. 2026, the quantum financial system officially moves to live global sync. Redemption centers open for the general public. Major banking grids begin quiet shutdown procedures as transactions reroute through the QFS network. The Federal Reserve, IMF, and SWIFT systems will freeze cross-border operations while asset-backed settlements activate in real time. On Sun. 22 Nov. 2026, the new ISO 20022 international banking standards will go into full effect on the 63rd anniversary of the assassination of U.S. President John F. Kennedy, 22 Nov. 1963. E-Global Currency Reset. Fry. 14 Aug. 2026, it's official. Redemption centers will start processing live appointments in accordance with full GESARA protocol during the first week of September, 2026. The schedule is already being filled with authorized Tier 4B participants, according to sources within 2 U.S. Your instruments will be placed in your very own QFS, Quantum Financial System account, that only you have access to. Anyone you take with you will not have access to that account. There will be a device given to you with biometric chips built in that can only be used by you and no one else to transfer money from your QFS account to your standard accounts. You can use up to 4 accounts to tie to your QFS account. You will have the option of taking some new USDNs, U.S. Treasury notes, which are the new asset-backed currency with you up to $2,500, which will come out of your currency and bond transaction. If you are a ZIM holder, you should also receive a Q phone or a certificate to get one at your local phone center stores. The Q phone is a satellite phone and is unique and different from your current cell phone. A medical team will be on site in case some of you faint during the 30-40 minutes you are there to process your bonds and currency. When you leave, go directly home. Relax. You will be filled with anxiety and excitement over what you just have done. The amount of currency available to you from the redemption and exchange process will be more than you have ever seen in your lifetime. Let it sink in. Be careful who you talk with about it after the fact, and do not break your NDA if placed under one. All of your communications will be monitored, so be smart. Think before speaking. If you break the NDA, your funds could be withheld or pulled back. You will need to set up a common law trust within 30 days. This is a specific type of trust to place any homes, autos, land, and other LLCs under for your own protection. Remember to do this within 30 days. I would use a personal attorney rather than the bank attorneys in their trust department, because they could potentially put the bank into your trust agreement as a beneficiary instead of your family members or loved ones you specify in case something were to happen to you. Do not make flashy PURCHASES, which will draw attention to yourself. 2026 NESARA. Quantum Financial System Intel on Telegram. What is NESARA? National Economic Security and Reform Act. What is GESARA? Global Economic Security and Reform Act. What does NESARA GESARA offer? Abolish all federal and local taxes. Forgiveness of debts. Cancel all credit card debts, mortgage, and other banking debts. Distribution of wealth. This does not only include material wealth but humanity, dignity, and consciousness. With the ongoing worldwide military operation, generally described as fight between good and evil. Yes, good is winning. Over the years, we have witnessed the fight against child human trafficking on a global scale, which of course has achieved tremendous victory. Billions of lives and resources has been saved, restored to humanity. Under the white hats or the good guys military operation, each nation has recovered a minimum estimated of over 91 trillion worth of precious metals and over 88 trillion worth of minerals and health resources. This is the source of the ongoing NESARAG's construction and wealth distribution. Each country maintains their sovereignty. You, as a person, maintain your sovereignty. Yes, you own your stuff, land, home, cars. Each country has their own sovereign physical and digital currency that is backed by precious metals, utility-backed currency with values, not as with the corrupt fiat system. Each country worships as they pleases. Each country governs itself independently. Currencies worldwide, digital, physical, are placed on a level play field that brings fairness to the world trade markets, all backed by precious metals. Society will not be entirely cashless. Rather, all currencies, physical or digital, will be backed with tangible precious metals. This is the reason why we are currently witnessing a steady collapse of the central banking system worldwide, as the decentralized financial market system revolution continues. Over $106 billion, 106 billions, are in circulation payments to all citizens. These funds are obtainable through your Q phones. The hour has ARRIVED. We all prayed for this day. As of 11 Aug. 2026, the global emergency broadcast system activation under martial law stands imminent, set to trigger a 3-day event followed by 10 days of communication darkness. During this period, 8 billion people and banks worldwide complete the global currency, reset to gold and asset-backed currencies across 209 nations. Military units have mobilized globally for a coordinated strike against the globalist power structure in what is described as the greatest sting operation ever conducted. Every cell phone on the planet is expected to receive 7 trumpet sounds transmitted from Starlink satellites, bypassing elite-controlled media. Normal communications then cease for 10 days, while documentaries explain unfolding events. Banks close, ATMs and credit cards stop functioning. 3 weeks of food and water supplies are advised, though the military stands ready to provide necessities where needed. Continuous broadcasts will educate the public on the principles of freedom and justice. President Trump's global military alliance has prepared for years, constructing secure satellite networks and communication lines. Trump is set to deliver 7 messages announcing a new era of freedom. More than 500,000 arrests of treasonous pedophile deep state globalists proceed worldwide. These actors long controlled the global financial system, steadily eroding freedoms in service of the New World Order depopulation, Agenda 2030, while claiming the right to rule. The alliance has countered this since the Lincoln era, selecting Trump to lead the effort. His military alliance has advanced the plan since before the 2016 inauguration. Central to breaking cabal control is the global currency reset, returning taxpayer funds to the people. The new gold and asset-backed quantum financial system of 209 nations is scheduled to go live on Sunday, 23 August 2026, ushering in financial transparency and freedom from prior control. Intelligence further indicates that Obama established a shadow government of radicals through organizations including Organizing for Action and the Obama Foundation to sabotage Trump, the American people, and the Constitution. The senior executive service was weaponized, embedding loyalists nationwide alongside technology companies, mainstream media, and academia to form a deep state apparatus. Democratic Socialists of America members have pledged allegiance to the Chinese Communist Party and received preferential treatment in China, with leadership openly favoring socialist models. Trump has expanded operations targeting protest funding networks linked to Cuba, alongside the GCR. The cabal's financial dominance and ritual abuse networks face decisive dismantling as the alliance executes the long-prepared transition. K. Martial Law UNLEASHED. EBS alerts urgent broadcast and how redemption centers might be our only hope. Deep state arrests. California alone has witnessed up to 8,000 arrests, with over 3,000 in the Northeast U.S., particularly concentrated in the New England area. Rumors suggest that the populace might be urged to stay indoors for their safety, especially during disclosures, while the final arrests take place. However, a resilient and awakened citizenry, now more than ever, won't be silenced or confined. The Emergency Broadcast System, EBS, is on the horizon, and when it hits, it will be swift, silent, and shocking. Like a ghostly shadow, everything familiar will fade into obscurity. Just like the eerie silence of 2020, we'll be asked to remain rooted, perhaps for days, maybe weeks. The military, it seems, has a broader purpose. As the last of the so-called Satanists face arrest and are sent to Gitmo, the military is also gearing up to distribute food, especially to the elderly. This is not just about control, but also about care. There's chatter about the military potentially overseeing the nation until fresh elections are held, precisely 120 days post the Jassara announcement. The focus should shift towards electing individuals with business acumen, particularly those who can rejuvenate local businesses, and more importantly, food-growing enterprises. The bustling stock market, halted. The digital world you're so intricately linked to, gone. And trust me, when the EBS alert vibrates your cell phone, echoing the chilling announcement, you'll know it's begun. These messages, sourced from the Starlink, are there to stay. Deleting them? Forget about it. They're imprinted, lasting reminders of the changing times. Essentials first. Stock up on clean drinking water. Ensure there's enough food, not just for you, but for your pets too. Medicines, get them in advance. Remember, the digital world is on a hiatus, so medical records are inaccessible. Cash is king. In a world where digital transactions become obsolete, cash will be your savior. ATMs might be out of service, and swiping those cards at gas pumps. Dream on. Mental fortitude. When the shock hits, it's vital to keep your wits about you. Before you extend your hand to others, ensure you're mentally fortified. Some might be in a state of shock, unable to respond. In such cases, a breath of fresh air, a gentle walk might help. Your TV, phone, and internet will spring back to life, unveiling a spectacle titled Disclosures. Rumor has it, it might even grace the big screens. But this isn't your typical Netflix binge. It's a 24/7, 8-hour block broadcast, lasting anywhere between 3 to 10 days. The content? Oh, it's the raw, unfiltered truth of events, spanning military tribunals and even, hold your breath, public executions. Areas drenched in corruption like Los Angeles and New York might experience extended viewing periods. But when the switch is flipped back, expect a metamorphosis. A world pulsating with positive energy devoid of evil's grasp. The internet, transformed. Banking systems, revolutionized. This, dear readers, is the dawn of an era of transparency and abundance. A veritable paradise on Earth. However, as the layers peel back, revealing covert operations, prepare to be flabbergasted. The faces you recognize might just be elaborate masquerades, Hollywood-grade masks, CGI marvels, and eerily realistic body doubles. Ever watched The Truman Show? Our reality might not be far off, with the scripted drama unfolding since 2015. The global lockdown tier for 2026 at precisely 0200 UTC, Starlink initiated global lockdown of rogue comms. Blackout zones lit in red, then dropped. The emergency broadcast system entered live operational deployment. 10 days, unfiltered, uncensored, unstoppable. The world is now witnessing, in real time, the collapse of everything it once trusted, and the unveiling of what has always been hidden in plain sight. EBS Transmission 1. Project Perseus activated. The first wave of footage aired this morning. beginning with military tribunals conducted between 2020 and 2024. Names once thought untouchable now flash across tribunal boards. John Brennan, Christine Lagarde, Klaus Schwab, Hillary Clinton, Yuval Harari. Their crimes. Crimes against humanity. Their verdicts. Sealed, then delivered. What followed shook even seasoned analysts. Real-time footage from beneath the Vatican where stolen art, gold... These broadcasts are no longer speculation. They are evidence. Override. All broadcast channels seized. Every major news outlet, CNN, BBC, MSNBC, went dark at 01:57. Their satellite uplinks overridden. The Mockingbird system has been decapitated. Starlink's AI command, Prometheus, has assumed total control of global bandwidth, now rerouting signals exclusively through white-hat quantum encryption relays. This ensures that no distortion, no spin, and no censorship will block the cascade of truths prepared for release. Phase 2 begins. The storm goes global. Mass arrests are now underway in Canada, France, Germany, Australia, and Japan. Alliance forces have neutralized over 9,400 deep state assets in the past 48 hours alone. Among them, bankers, scientists, AI architects, and public health officials who orchestrated the biowarfare campaigns disguised as public safety. In a newly aired segment, quantum-verified documents proved the World Economic Forum had issued scripted lockdown protocols years in advance, synced with weather manipulation systems and fiat collapse cycles. The coordination was industrial. The consequences were genocidal. Jassara Phase II. Civilian wealth transfer underway. Newly digitized, gold-backed funds are being injected directly into QFS-verified accounts. Citizens with biometric clearances are receiving notifications for redemption appointments, which include full debt nullification, revaluation, exchanges, quantum ID registration, sovereign asset inheritance packages, private banking cartels have been fully collapsed. Over $84 trillion in cabal-seized offshore assets are now being filtered into public trust funds. These disbursements are pre-coded by nation, population density, and consciousness resonance scores.
Right now.
So let's talk about this national emergency real quick. Steve Bannon has said August, you feel October, but don't you think, and SG Anon said some things too that I thought, well, that could be interesting. Trump declares a national security emergency, which you've been saying for the last year and a half or long, about.
Well, I've been saying it for 5 years, but the timing.
Right. But the timing of it now
come to a head, and then as we got past the election, 2024. Then coming up in the midterms, it became obvious that we're there now, and so it's always been the case that the only way to get ourselves out of this paper bag that we're trapped in is the breakout is the military has to intervene. It has to be done from a commander-in-chief role. The only question was at which point you would pull that trigger, but we're now closing on the point of no return, and that would be the midterms. You can't let the midterms go forward without it's the end of the world type of scenario.
But so SG kind of said, and I kind of agree with this. It kind of makes sense to me a little bit. If he does it in August or September, that gives the states time to comply and go along with this. And if not, obviously, if he does it in October, that's not giving them much time to do anything.
You've already This is I just had a major conversation with somebody in a very influential location on this, and had to read them the Riot Act. Somebody I look up to a lot. They're a genius. They do important stuff, but excuse me, I just had to kick him in the ass hard with the pointy boot.
So kick me in the ass.
Okay. If you run a perfect election in November right now.
Oh, got you. The primaries.
You've already got candidates all through the electoral system that are on the ballot who got there through election fraud, in part because it's like 10 different ways, 20 different ways. But the key thing is you have voters on the voter rolls that have never been cleaned up. And the states can claim that they're cleaned up, but they're not. The reports coming out about the fraudulent voters in New York with Mandami are absolutely stunning, absolutely over the top, unimaginable how many fraudulent votes in that situation. It's going to be addressed. Take it to the bank. But the deal is that if you proceed, let's say you go ahead and go with an election November 3rd, and you have perfect, not one fraudulent vote, not one duplicate vote, not one vote by a person who's on, not a U.S. citizen, or multiple votes, or any of the mischief that goes on, not one electronic mischief, not one paper ballot mischief, nothing. If you ran a perfect election at this point, November 3rd, with the ballots that have already shaped up, plus the last handful of primaries that are still in play, you would be locking in people who are there through election fraud. Now you still have to unravel that. We've already shown that the courts are not capable of going in and unwinding fraudulent elections. We've already shown that the legislatures, the governors, the secretaries of state, the attorney generals won't bring a case that's a case on the stuff. They claim that people don't have standing. All sorts of bizarre things. They've done nothing to throttle or address the money that's laundered into campaigns from foreign sources. This is so huge. It's beyond most people's comprehension. The amount of money that's coming predominantly from China, some of it through Eastern European and European operations, into campaigns here in the U.S. through multiple directions. It's all fraudulent money, and the campaigns are taking it. When you address them on it, maybe they pay it back after the election. At the end of the day, none of that has been addressed in any significant way. So, can you have, at this moment in time, right now, can you have a legitimate election November 3rd? No, there's already too much fraud dialed in. Anyway, what I believe is going to happen is that the president is going to have some type of a finding concerning the situation on the elections. It's going to be as a national security posting or address, whatever, that advises him in an official capacity the elections have already been compromised, and that it's going to be impossible to unwind everything by November 3rd. And you have to remember, you might say, I had this was part of the reason for the conversation I had a little bit ago. The person was saying, well, but can't we do like the ones that are okay, because we don't think they're all bad, and then the ones that we think are kind of bad, and we pause those, but we go on with the election overall? No, you can't, because first of all, you haven't done thorough enough investigations to know all the details to even legitimately pause certain elections. Others we have great information on. So let's say that we pause a bunch of elections in California, and we narrow it down to certain people on the ballot, but not other people. And we do that piecemeal across the country. You know what that's a formula for, Nino? That's a formula for civil war. That's a formula for shutting down some states and not other states.
Jeez.
It's also a formula for certain states to say that we're going to go ahead and run the election for our state anyway and try to force people into office, even though they're fraudulent, including into federal office. Well, that throws the balance off for other people that are already there. You can't, balances are out of whack. The scripture says, I, the Lord God, hate. It's a pretty strong word if you think it's God saying it. Hate uh, unjust weights and balances. And a fraudulent election is an unjust weight and balance because it doesn't give civil rights of an honest vote to certain people, and it gives extra votes to other people. That's an unjust weight and measure. Throws the balances off. The country goes off the rails with improper balances. So the reality is the only answer, when I had Peter Tickton on the stage with me at the Fraud Fighter Summit, and I had several other people that I said the same thing with. We talked about it, Professor Clemens and others. But Peter Tickton initially said, well, I mean, there could possibly, maybe. And I says, but wait a second, what about the primaries? He said, well, you can't fix those. There's no way to go back and unravel this. So
Point taken.
can you have an honest election in November?
Right.
He said, no, there's no path forward at this point in time. The only way to do this, he said, well, there's going to have to be some kind of a thing. I said, pause, but I says, it's really a full stop. And he agreed, yes, a full stop.
Let me ask you this. The Democrats have to be anticipating this national security emergency. I mean, the SAVE Act isn't passing. They got to know this is Trump's next move. They know this is coming.
Let me just say this. Yeah, absolutely, Nino. They know it. Newsweek.
So why are their donors still dumping money into their campaigns?
Well, hold on a second. They're now in a. Let me just finish the first question. After I had Peter Tickton on the stage the other day at the Fraud Fighter Summit, then Newsweek did a hit piece on him, as though he was off his rocker and the president can't do this, he can't declare a national emergency, whatever. You have to go read the article and weigh it out yourself. It's been a while since I read it, but at the end of the day, they attacked the idea that president could pause the elections or stop them. And it was based on this public thing because he hasn't done anything else that was quite that public, saying anything like this until he did it at the Fraud Fighter Summit. The reason that they would still fund these things is because they still believe within the Democratic Party and the rhinos. It's not a one-sided thing. This is not just Democrat versus Republican. This is con artists, electoral thieves, shysters in both parties. And so they benefit by getting into office, and they think, many of them are already in office, they think that they can power through this. They're looking at what Trump would do as something that would be able to be fought back from a legislative level or a judicial level. A judge puts a freeze on Trump's actions. Already a couple of Western states have filed or are about to file things seeking an injunction against President Trump interfering in their elections at the state level as a state's right. What they're failing to dial into any of these equations, and most of the listeners here have to rethink where they're at.
President Trump, temporary martial law, nation to go in lockdown with stay-at-home orders, non-essential travel to be suspended, likely by Sunday or Monday, 16-17 August 2026. Judy note, President Trump on Wednesday, August 12, 2026, 12 noon Eastern Standard Time. The nation will be going into lockdown. Immediate orders send shockwaves across the nation. In a historic address from the White House on Wednesday, President Donald Trump has declared an immediate nationwide lockdown across the entire United States, citing a grave and escalating national security threat. The sweeping executive order, effective immediately, mandates strict stay-at-home orders for all citizens, suspends non-essential travel, and mobilizes federal resources to enforce the measures. This unprecedented decision follows emergency consultations with the Joint Chiefs of Staff and National Security Advisors aiming to contain the crisis and protect the American public. The federal government will coordinate with state authorities to implement the lockdown as the nation grapples with the bombshell announcement from the president. Saturday, August 8th, massive cyber offensives and data breaches neutralizing central banking and federal communications infrastructure. By Sunday, August 9th, 2026, the U.S. military was stationed in 360 cities, anticipating immediate Supreme Court directives on emergency constitutional petitions. which threatened to dissolve compromised federal jurisdictions. The U.S. military and D.C. police were preparing comprehensive security lockdowns across Washington, D.C. The Global Military Alliance, accelerating mass arrests and active tribunals targeting over 500,000 deep state cabal, political, and global elites. Intelligence agencies, federal enforcement bodies, and associated political leadership implicated in continuing covert operations, deep state collusion, and elite trafficking networks. Massive inflows of unvetted border crossings, weaponized to supply high-level networks serving high-ranking officials and state actors as per verified military intelligence. Thursday, August 13, 2026, temporary martial law alert. Expect a global blackout and EBS activation. Global EBS activation under martial law for a 3-day event, 10 days of communication darkness, while 8 billion people and all banks across the globe complete a global currency reset to gold asset-backed currencies. Quantum Systems Project. During this period, 8 billion people and banks worldwide complete the global currency reset to gold and asset-backed currencies across 209 nations. Military units have mobilized globally for a coordinated strike against the globalists, power structure, in what is described as the greatest sting operation ever conducted. Every cell phone on the planet is expected to receive 7 trumpet sounds transmitted from Starlink satellites, bypassing elite-controlled media. Normal communications then cease for 10 days while documentaries explain unfolding events. Banks close, ATMs and credit cards stop functioning. 3 weeks of food and water supplies are advised. Though the military stands ready to provide necessities where needed, continuous broadcasts will educate the public on the principles of freedom and justice. President Trump's global military alliance has prepared for years, constructing secure satellite networks and communication lines. Trump is set to deliver 7 messages announcing a new era of freedom. More than 500,000 arrests of treasonous pedophile deep state globalists proceed worldwide. These actors long controlled the global financial system, steadily eroding freedoms in service of the New World Order depopulation Agenda 2030 while claiming their right to rule. The alliance has countered this since the Lincoln era, selecting Trump to lead the effort. His military alliance has advanced the plan since before the 2016 inauguration. Central to breaking cabal control is the global currency reset, returning taxpayer funds to the people. The new gold asset-backed quantum financial system of 209 nations is scheduled to go live on Sunday, August 23, 2026, ushering in financial transparency and freedom from prior control. Intelligence further indicates that Obama established a shadow government of radicals through organizations including Organizing for Action and the Obama Foundation to sabotage Trump, the American people, and the Constitution. The senior executive service was weaponized, embedding loyalists nationwide alongside technology companies, mainstream media, and academia to form a deep state apparatus. Democratic Socialists of America members have pledged allegiance to the Chinese Communist Party and received preferential treatment in China, with leadership openly favoring socialist models. Trump has expanded operations targeting protest funding networks linked to Cuba, while mass arrests involving high-level figures continue. The restored republic under original constitutional principles advances alongside the GCR. The cabal's financial dominance and ritual abuse networks face decisive dismantling as the alliance executes the long-prepared transition.
On Monday, the 10th of August 2026, Trump dissolved the Federal Reserve and IRS, plus activated Nasara Gassara. Tier 4 BUS, the Internet Group Protocol for the Global Currency Reset, went active. On Thursday, the 13th of August 2026, Fox News, Trump signed Nasara Gassara Reset Bill. On Saturday, the 15th of August 2026, Trump announces complete restoration of human vitality under the restored republic. On Sunday, the 16th of August 2026, 10 Days of Darkness prepare the final media takeover. On Tuesday, the 1st of September 2026, the quantum financial system officially moves to Live Global Sync. Redemption centers open for the general public. Major banking grids begin quiet shutdown procedures as transactions reroute through the QFS network. The Federal Reserve, IMF, and SWIFT systems will freeze cross-border operations while asset-backed settlements activate in real time. On Sunday, the 22nd of November 2026, the new ISO 2002
Hey guys, it's Friday. It's the 14th of August, and this is our penultimate day in Singapore. It's been a fabulous time here. But there's so much going on, and there's so much going on that's not being talked about. And I'm going to start with talking about BRICS and BRICS Pay. As of today, over 40 countries are currently using BRICS Pay to pay one another, circumnavigating using the dollar, the US dollar. But what they're not doing is they're not making this the only choice. They're not boycotting the dollar. It's being done very, very carefully. And BRICS Pay, with 40 countries using it, settling business, those 40 countries have settled 67% of their trades with BRICS Pay. That means only 33% have been settled with US dollars, where it used to be 100%. The US is in complete panic. They don't know what to do. They don't know what to say. Everything is slipping through their hands, and we're watching. They can't even pass the Clarity Act, where everybody else has. Everybody else is ahead of the game. Most Americans, and I say this carefully because 80% of Americans don't even have passports. They haven't traveled. I've talked to some Americans yesterday, and Americans have this thought that they're the world leaders. They're the best in the world. They're the number one because they've been told it. They've been told it by everybody. But I met a lovely, lovely American family from California yesterday. They were in Singapore. Today they're in Kuala Lumpur. And then they go on to Shanghai. They're in complete and utter shock at how far ahead Singapore is than America. And I said, you wait till you get to Shanghai. You have a look at Kuala Lumpur. These are incredible cities that if you actually gave somebody a pen, 80% of Americans, if you gave them a pen, they couldn't show you where Singapore is on the world map. And what is even more funny is if you told them to put a pen on a map and show you where Iraq or Iran were, not a clue, let alone Ukraine. And yet they've allowed this to go ahead, these wars to go ahead with countries. They don't even know where they are. They don't even know why you're doing it. You just fall into the mode of being doing as you're told. Now, in your defense, in Singapore, there's still people here wearing masks. There's a lot of people here from China. They're so addicted to masks because they've been told for years, you have to wear them, you have to wear them. It's brainwashing. But as I said the other day with the scripture that I had, there's no point planting seeds on rocky ground. Because if you talk to these people, you might as well talk to a wall. They look at you completely dumbfounded. They don't know what you're talking about. And that explains why 80% of the people on this earth are NPCs. They're non-playing characters. They're not a part of it. And I thank God for the 20%, 15 to 20% that are playing their part. There's a lot of very, very good people out there. But don't worry about those that we've left behind because there's only so much you can do. This is a very special time. Things are moving forward. Going back to the BRICS currency, it's backed by gold. 40% of it is backed by gold. 60% is backed by a basket of currencies from the other countries. It's stable. They can't just print like they've done for years. We're moving forward to a good place. There's a lot of stuff out there to distract you, to ruffle your feathers, to get you to wake up, but we'll get through it. Drew, good morning.
Good morning, Charlie. Good morning, everyone. My first story that's not going ahead is the SEC has unexpectedly cancelled today's major meeting on the new cryptocurrency regulations, citing an unforeseen scheduling issue. The postponement comes as the Clarity Act is also delayed in Congress, leaving the crypto industry waiting once again for greater regulatory certainty.
Well, this is all part of what I just said earlier. The rest of the world's ahead of the game. And the longer they take, the more people join BRICS, because they're using a digital currency that's backed by something. And this, what it will do is level out the playing field. And the beautiful thing about it is, within BRICS, there are at least 5, maybe 10 independent settlement options. Brazil's always had its own internal settlement system. China has always had it. Russia's always had it. And they all happen to work together. And that is what's unnerving America. And this is why they don't know what to do with the Clarity Act and don't know what to do with the SEC. The SEC has no clout at all. It only affects people in America. And if you're not very quick, then you are going to get left so far behind. It's unbelievable. But the rest of the world, they're not waiting for you anymore because they don't see you as a world leader. They see you as an equal. An equal that's fast asleep at the moment at the wheel. They'll do what they can to wake you up, but don't panic. The rest of the world is so far ahead of the game. You've got some catching up to do, but it's a good place to be.
Right now, folks, right now, America stands at the edge of a moment that, if this scenario ever became reality, which it's going to, okay, we're all anticipating this, could shake the republic to its foundation. I think we all know where we're heading. Imagine the announcement coming without warning. Now, you're getting the warning from me. You've gotten it on ninoscorner.tv. You all know, my audience knows, we've been anticipating this for the last year and a half. Juan O'Savin has come on and said it many, many times. President Donald Trump stood before the cameras, or he steps before the cameras and declares a national security emergency just weeks before the midterm elections. Now, I expect it. I think he should do it to give the states a little time to prepare, but who knows how he's going to play this card. I'm not sure. Immediately, the country erupts. Several states announced they will not comply. Now, you better expect this. Governors challenge Washington. Attorney generals race to the federal court. Political leaders accuse the White House of crossing a constitutional red line. Can you imagine that? Oh, you need voter ID? You know, if we don't need voter ID to vote, what do we need them for cars or to check into the airports? To get on a plane, then I refuse to give them my ID for that as well. And within minutes, the television networks light up with some explosive accusations. Dictator, coup, power grab. They claim Trump is trying to interfere with the elections. They claim he's preparing to refuse to relinquish power. They tell America that democracy itself is under attack. You better believe this is what's coming. But in this scenario, something much darker begins unfolding beneath the political battle. Because while Washington fights in courtrooms and politicians fight in front of cameras, America's streets begin heating up. Protests explode across major cities. Federal buildings are surrounded. National Guard units are placed on standby. Law enforcement receives warnings about potential attacks. And intelligence officials begin investigating the nightmare possibility that dormant extremist cells or individual radicals waiting for the right moment could exploit the chaos. Then comes the most dangerous question of all. Who is actually in control? Because if Trump believes he's confronting a genuine national security threat, while his opponents believe Trump himself has become the threat, America suddenly has two completely different versions of reality colliding at exactly the wrong moment. And folks, they cannot coexist. They cannot coexist. Meanwhile, the threats surrounding President intensify. Assassination plots and security scares begin appearing with alarming frequency as Trump approaches the emergency declaration. Secret Service protection tightens. Movements become less predictable. Security parameters are expanding. Every rooftop matters. Every suspicious vehicle matters. Every unexplained breach matters, because history tells us that periods of extreme political instability can create opportunities for unstable individuals, extremists, and foreign adversaries. I don't know, like Iran. And here's where the story reaches its breaking point, folks. What happens if Trump declares this emergency and have the country refuse to recognize his authority? What happens when governors tell Washington no, actually hell no? What happens when federal authority collide with state authority? What happens when millions of Americans are convinced an election is being stolen while millions of others are convinced the president is attempting to prevent one? And what happens if violence erupts right in the middle of it? At that point, America isn't simply watching another political controversy, folks. America is staring directly into a constitutional and national security crisis. The midterms become more than just an election. They become the battlefield over who controls the next chapter of this country for decades and decades to come. The establishment will say Trump crossed the line. Trump supporters will say the establishment finally revealed itself. The media will scream authoritarianism. The White House will scream national security. The courts will be dragged into the center of the storm. And Americans will be forced to ask one terrifying question, folks. Is the emergency being declared because chaos is coming? Or does declaring the emergency become the spark that creates the chaos? Because once that announcement is made, and I believe it's going to be made probably fairly soon, there may be no way out, and there may be no way to put the genie back in the bottle once this happens. This is the scenario we're breaking down this morning. And if a fraction of it became reality, the battle wouldn't simply be over Donald Trump. It would be over the limits of presidential power, the authority of the states, the future of American elections, and ultimately who controls the United States when the system itself is pushed to the breaking point. Ladies and gentlemen, buckle up because we're about to get into it. And by the way, folks, if you don't think things will get crazy or challenged if Trump declares this national emergency, listen to this, for example. Trump's mail-in voting restrictions blocked nationwide by a federal judge. So they're already playing the game. A federal judge on Tuesday expanded an early block on part of President Trump's executive order seeking to tighten rules for mail-in voting ahead of November's elections. Why it matters? The ruling freezes a key piece of Trump's attempted overhaul of mail-in voting for all U.S. states. A previous ruling in a separate case had limited a block for the 23 Democratic states that sued over the president's order. Now imagine a national security emergency, imagine executive orders. You can imagine the mayhem that's coming. And also the threats on Trump's life. I mean, folks, he's having to take decoy planes.
We finally got rid of Keir Starmer, and that is very important because this UK Prime Minister was blocking the change in control of the financial system because he was a front for a fake King Charles, and his removal is going to be a very good thing. But the battle is not yet over. They're going to try to replace him with a cutout, another person for the same clique. But What we really want is to replace the fake King Charles with the real King William. And then the idea is to have have a general election, and we're assuming the British people will select Nigel Farage as Prime Minister. At that point, we need to call for a new Bretton Woods conference to completely revamp the world financial system. Because right now, there could be no doubt whatsoever that it is controlled by criminals, especially now the high-tech companies. Let's think about it for a minute. They were censoring the Russian war, the Russian-Ukrainian war. They completely censored the fact that this was a joint Russian-Ukrainian Chabad genocide of the Ukrainian people. It was not a war. It was a genocide disguised as a war. And now we're hearing about 2.4 million Ukrainian men have been slaughtered, their women enslaved, and the country was turned into a slave market. It was a center for drugs, for weapons selling. You know, they were taking all these military donations from the West and selling them for a profit. It was the absolute worst thing. And now it's looking like Poland and Hungary are going to declare war on Ukraine because they have become openly and brazenly Nazi and genocidal. However, it probably will not be necessary because Andriy Yermak, the real power behind the Zelensky regime, is in jail now. He was a front for the Soros people. A lot of the other people and the genocide are being removed, but we still need to go after the owners of the high-tech companies. Remember, they didn't just censor Russia as well as the other high-tech companies, and we must not forget that. And then the most recent example is the Iran war and the genocide in Gaza. This one they've had more trouble covering up, but it is clear that the ownership of the tech corporations, in fact, all of the Fortune 500, needs to be removed from the Rockefeller, Rothschild, Khazarian mafia and returned to the people it was stolen from. But that is going to happen. And the other thing, at this point, I'd like to say something about Freemasons. Freemasons, I'm not a Freemason, by the way, but I've been contacted by them. And Freemasons are like a double-edged sword. What happens is you have like a king or a ruler, and he sort of scouts the most influential people in society to create an informal control network. Now, that can be used for evil or it can be used for other purposes, but clearly it's still at work. Each time they get a Freemason handshake, they're subsequently removed from power, which is why it's interesting that Donald Trump refused to shake his hand when he went to the G7 last week. Now let's talk about Donald Trump. It is clear from what he's doing and saying that this is not the same Trump who started the Iran war. The face is different, and more important, what his words and actions are different. He is calling Benjamin Netanyahu a con man and insulting him in other ways. He's saying, similar stuff about Zelensky. More importantly, what's happening now is we're actually seeing the birth of a U.S.-Iranian military alliance. And this means the end of Israel. Israel is finished. And so he says that the Israelis who don't want to integrate with the region, don't want to become part of a multi-ethnic, multicultural society, will go elsewhere. I don't know where they're going to be able to go on this planet. A lot of them have set up a base in Patagonia, and they're hoping they'll find shelter in Argentina. But my view is that genocidal criminals hide somewhere and then come back another day to, we must finish this off. We must liberate the Jewish people from their satanic overlords. And that is going to happen. But hopefully, if everything goes well with the White Hats winning, we'll have a Bretton Woods conference as early as this fall, once you have regime change in the UK, and that will lead to a return of the control of the financial system to democratically elected leaders, and also a revamp of the international system And already 160 nations and international organizations are supporting a plan for a law-based, democratic, new international system that actually represents the people of the world. Because the United Nations is privately owned by the Rockefellers. They tried to use the WHO to turn this into an absolute dictatorship, and it's not going to happen. But the battle is still not over. So, for example, we still haven't had any Epstein arrests. And now it looks like Epstein Island is still owned by the same people. So we need to go after these people, okay? We can't let them just get away with mass murdering of children. That has to stop. There's no way it can continue. This is something the U.S. military really needs to get on the case. And the U.S. military also needs to have a purge of all the traitors who sold out to Israel. Listen to this 20-year-old military, this 20-year military veteran talk about what happened to him when he posted, comments critical of the genocide in Gaza. So any military officer who is working for Israel needs to be removed from ASAP. And most of them are concentrated in the Army. There's very few in the Marines and Navy. There's quite a lot in the Air Force, but mostly in the Army. So that's where the purge has to take place in order for this to happen. The other thing people need to watch out for is the Israelis have systematically honey-trapped a lot of influential people. Before we get to the Israeli example, Japanese military intelligence told me that most of the students at Japanese military colleges ended up marrying Chinese honey traps. They didn't know about it, but they did. I mean, they pretended to be Japanese, and this is what happened. And since Israel controls most of the dating apps, it's a good bet that they've placed the honey traps in all sorts of key locations. Watch this clip about how they control the dating apps. It's been previously announced you're going to show up and offers herself to you. You're supposed to chase them. So if they act unnaturally or if they're definitely out of your league, and let's be realistic, what sort of woman you can actually get, and watch out, because the honey part is nice, and that's something people need to watch out for. So the purge still needs to continue, but the battle is going very well, but it's definitely not over. I've been looking at the situation in Venezuela. They had this huge earthquake, and it was the epicenter was only 10 kilometers deep, which is suspicious. And then I looked in the news, and it looks like Venezuela said they're not going to pay $240 billion that the Khazarian mafia says it owes them. So as soon as they say, hey, we're not going to pay the $240 billion you're asking for, they get hit with an earthquake weapon. We need to take the control of these weapons away from these people. It's the weather weapons and the earthquake weapons are the things they still have that we need to do something about. And that may involve sending troops to Antarctica to take out some of these bases where the weather warfare equipment is located. But that needs to be done. Now, another issue I wish to talk about is the situation in South Africa, because I was asked by a listener last week and I didn't have an answer. I did a bit of research. It looks like South Africa is having their own version of the illegal immigrant crisis that hit Europe and the United States. They have 40% unemployment, and South Africa is relatively rich compared to other parts of Africa, and it's been flooded with Nigerians, Malawians, and there's 40% unemployment. So there's been a spontaneous reaction, and mobs are attacking the foreigners who've come into that country. So definitely it's a very unstable situation, but it does look like the South Africans have had enough. And the thing is, migration needs to be legal and needs to be done in such a way that it benefits the society. So we want to have, for example, in Canada, we want to have nurses and engineers. What we don't want to have is military-age young males who don't even have a high school diploma, who are leading to a rise in crime, because that's what we're seeing. And this is almost certainly deliberate. It's not something that we should have allowed. But in any case, getting back to the situation in Europe and the United States, it does look like the Habsburg dynasty, that's the King of Spain, whose cousin is Prince William, and then the people controlling Hungary, are making a move to remove Satanists from the very top levels of Western power. And this is why we were seeing a new Trump and the Starmer's out. When we see Friedrich Merz removed from Germany, that'll be a sign that the battle is well underway. And I'm assuming that Macron and the French Rothschilds will be the last to surrender, but they're already asking for permission to, leave to the Kerguelen Islands and go into self-exile. So that will happen. And when that happens, we can have a financial system whose purpose is not to create a greater Israel and kill 90% of the world and enslave the rest, which is what the people who control the financial system have been doing up until now. Instead, we'll have people who do what people want. What do people want? They want to be richer, they want to live longer, they want to be healthier, they want to be happier, and that's the sort of thing that will start happening. And this will mean major reforms. It's not going to be easy, but the medical system, for example, will once again make it be structured so that the healthier people get, the longer they live, the more money doctors make. Right now, it's the opposite, and everything will be much better. We're gonna have, but it's gonna require a big international meeting. It's got to be public. It's not, but at the high level with the assassinations and the arrests and everything. A tipping point has been reached. The White Hats are in charge of the military now, and they've done it in the UK now as well. And China also had a big purge. It's not been in the news, but most of their top military were removed because they were corrupted by the cabal and the total surveillance society that China was becoming is being changed, and it's much more benevolent group in power now. So that has changed and it hasn't been seen. But I expect things to move a bit sideways over the summer, but I'm pretty sure that if we all keep pushing, make sure that Starmer is not replaced by another member of the same cabal, then things will happen very quickly. And the UK has had, 7 prime ministers in 10 years? That's a sign of a failed state. In other words, the same group puts in another person following the same agenda with, increases in illegal immigration and all the economic mismanagement. It's just going to lead to more collapse. So something fundamental has to change, and that means a general election will have to be held. So let's push for that. Let's make sure that Farage or someone like him is there, and there could be genuine reform. And the United States, too, needs to go through a formal bankruptcy so that we can take over the ownership of the corporation. That bubble, they've lost, $600 billion in so-called market value recently. And they should lose a lot more, but already the other AI companies are giving up on their IPOs, so that bubble has burst. And the other thing that's happening is Saudi Arabia has been isolated, and their control of the oil industry and OPEC's control of the oil industry has shifted, and we're now actually seeing a military alliance between the U.S. and Iran. And this has been good for the U.S. in a lot of ways. For one thing, together with the Iranians, they can get a lot of control back over the oil industry. The other thing that is happening is that the Middle East will have peace finally, and Israel will be replaced by the nation-state of Judea. Right now, the Iranian military and the U.S. military are talking. The U.S. military will leave the region, and then the Turks and the Iranians will take care of the situation. But things are going pretty well overall. However, this summer is probably going to be hard for a lot of people because the system hasn't yet completely collapsed, and it can only rebuild once these people are fully and finally removed. But that is going to happen, I promise you. Okay, well, that's what I have to say for myself. Now I'd like to answer questions from readers and viewers.
Ben, we have our first question for today. We're hearing a lot about riots going on right now in Paris, France, as well as a big push by a lot of Europeans across Europe to push these migrants out. What are your thoughts on this, and do you think the Europeans will take back their home from these invaders?
Well, the Europeans have already signed a 30-day deportation law, and they've closed a loophole that allowed people who are given deportation orders to go from France to Germany and then drop off the radar. And now there's nowhere in Europe they can hide. So, yeah, I mean, military-aged men who are not European and who are not working should be kicked out and returned to their countries. They were brought in for nefarious reasons, and they need to remove. If they have a job and they're contributing to society, then I think they should be allowed to stay. But if they're just hanging around street corners or mooching off welfare, they should be kicked out. It's about time. And it'd be better if the governments did more, but that will happen. And it's going to happen in the UK, too, because things have gone way overboard there with these Muslim rape gangs and all that other stuff that's been happening. This is not what Europe is about. And it's a good thing. And you know, I'm in favor of immigration when you're getting people who have skills that we don't have, who can contribute to society and, you know, provide us with new types of food and all the other good things, but not these huge influx of military age, low education males. That was deliberate social sabotage, and the sooner they're removed, the better. And I hope Germany has a change in government soon, so they can Germany can once again be ruled by the Germans. Next question.
Hi, Ben. I'd like to hear your thoughts on the modern-day state of Israel, given the history of how they were formed and how they had originally stolen land from the Palestinians that brought them into their home in the 1950s. Should Israel even exist in its current state?
No, my belief is that Israel should be replaced by a multi-ethnic, multi-religious state of Judea, which would include full rights to the original Judeans, who are misleadingly called Palestinians, and the Jews who wish to stay will be allowed to live in peace, but the genocidal people will have to face war crimes tribunals. That's my view. But no, Israel should not continue as it is. It's a racist state, and it's now widely recognized as the main source of terrorism and evil on this planet. These are Satan worshippers. They're not Jews, and they should be dealt with. Next question.
Hi, Ben. You often take up the P2, P3, Freemason, and Black Sun, but could you please expose the dialogue of Peter Thiel? Members may include seemingly white hats.
Yeah, I've got a list of the members of this, and it's people like Jared Kushner, Peter Thiel, Elon Musk, Ted Cruz, and I think this is the group that was pushing for the AI Mark of the Beast digital control system. But the fact that Thiel has fled to Argentina and Kushner has been looking for a underground base to hide in, and the fact that their names have been hacked and published shows that this group is no longer in charge. But I am looking into it. But a lot of people have been exposing it, and once they're exposed, that's it. It's game over. And also, I have a personal grudge against the whole PayPal people, because they shut down my site. They stole $15,000 from me. And as far as I'm concerned, they're criminals and they belong in jail. Next question.
Ivan, we have our last question for today. You mentioned earlier that the Trump in office is not the same Trump that started the Iranian war. Do you believe now that this is the real Trump that was elected in 2016?
What it is that it's the faction. No, I mean, the Trump who existed until June of 2025 was 6'3", was quite handsome. And what's happened, though, is that the Trump we see now is following the agenda of the real Trump. So the people who are behind the real Trump have taken back control of the U.S. Commander-in-Chief's office, and They're going back to the agenda of the original white hat Trump. So he is a spokesperson for the white hats, but he's definitely not the same person. He's just representing the same group and following the same agenda. The Khazarian mafia is now in a very desperate last-minute struggle to make sure that we never, ever escape the digital prison they're trying to build for us. Right now, Israel is trying to get American politicians to make it mandatory for to have 5-year jail sentences for people who criticize Israel. At the same time, they are installing face recognition software everywhere with cameras, and they will be able to identify you real time and arrest you for things you say or do. And it's not about crime. In one example, in the UK, a woman was arrested by 11 people who came in and while she was having a bath because of some text message she sent. This is just a private text message. This is not even public. And the reason why they're trying to crack down so much is because they are fighting for their lives. They know that this giant scam that they call a government is unraveling in real time. And this is what has been making us poor. I want to show you an example of how fake the government is. As I've written my reports with lots of evidence over the years, NASA stands for not a space agency. Now, in this clip, you can watch NASA astronaut Karen Nyborg explain how they fake or show how they fake spaceflight. Take a look. Okay, it's kind of funny, except that literally it's a slush fund that milks us out of billions of dollars, which then goes to bribe people and to enrich these criminals. And that's just a small example. We have, for example, Jared Kushner somehow coming up with $100 billion to buy Warner Brothers. Jared Kushner belongs in jail, not in charge of $100 billion money created out of thin air. And it's only going to get worse. They're setting up death squads in the United States, disguised as ICE agents, and they're rounding up dissidents as we speak. And they're trying to fire all patriots from the U.S. military and the enforcement agencies. And I have a special message for FBI Deputy Director Dan Bongino. You need to get some men with guns and go and arrest Pam Bondi, okay? You're not just going to get anything done by complaining or threatening to resign. This is going to require men with guns. Remember, we're talking about a group of fake politicians. The medical system have degenerated to that point. It's just mind-boggling that it would allow this to happen, and then they have all their paid shills in the media scream whenever they try to. This is all because of a satanic cult of about 1 million members. Many of them are concentrated in high positions, and that's what we need to target. Now, I've asked my military contacts why the military doesn't do something about it. And what the story I got was that anybody who was not obedient to the system and Israel never got promoted past colonel. So I would like to suggest that Colonel Douglas McGregor and his buddies start networking. And the key to doing this is to convince the military police that their commander-in-chief has been replaced by a fraud. Take a look at the Trump in this clip threatening the president of Colombia. That is obviously not Donald Trump. This is a Zionist fake who has been put in his place, and arresting him is your duty if you're in the military police. And we need to end this nightmare because they're turning up the screws, and they're really gonna try very hard to everybody else they can, and we need a mass uprising, and it is happening. And I ask people to take personal action. If you see one of these Satanist Zionist puppets in public, confront them. Look what they did to Christy Noem of the Israeli Department of Homeland Security. Okay, that's what should happen every time these people appear in public. Better still is if you can arrest them, make a citizen's arrest, but that would require men with guns. Again, we need the agencies and the military to understand that the people at the top are criminals, and they're trying to create a digital prison. An example of this was the Chabad death cult. Remember, they want to kill 90% of humanity and enslave the rest. It's in their writings. They just gave a reward to the Peter Thiel's company Palantir for facial recognition software, because this allows them, gives them the potential to turn the entire Western world into a huge slave camp, and that's what they're trying to do. The Swiss government rejected Palantir because they realized that this was going to turn the Swiss people into the puppets of Israel. And Israel itself needs to be dealt with. That's the heart of the beast. And, we're asking the Turkish to send in their military and clean that place up. Now, I'll give you a list of some names of people who, if we arrest them publicly, this nightmare should end. We've got Larry Fink, he should go. Jared Kushner, Ursula von der Leyen, Brigitte Macron, who my French intelligence sources tell me is actually Jean-Michel de Rothschild, Friedrich Merz of Germany, Keir Starmer in the UK, and, the usual stuff. Of course, Benjamin Netanyahu has to be arrested. If we can get rid of these people, we can end this nightmare. And the other thing people do need to understand is no matter how grim the situation looks, this is confined to the West, and the West is headed for bankruptcy. There's no way they can avoid it. China just announced $1 trillion trade surplus. And that's based on real things. That's, computers and televisions being put into boxes and shipped around the world. This is not hallucinatory numbers created on stock markets that don't actually have a basis in reality. And the West has some payments coming due, which they're not going to be able to make. So, for example, my French intelligence sources tell me that the EU and France have a whole bunch of bonds coming due by March, and they don't have the money to pay for it, which is why they're now talking about seizing Russian money that they have illegally frozen. But that's, even if they seize that money, it's going to be a temporary stopgap because they just don't have the real economy to back up all their numbers and their bank computers. The same with the United States. These tariffs are bringing in less than a tenth of what the United States government needs. And I have asked the Chinese to please not finance this criminal circus anymore. We need to end this, and the West needs to start with a jubilee, cancel all the debt slavery, end it all, and then put really competent people in charge of economic planning and have them do it on behalf of the people and the elected representatives of the people. But in order to be able to have the elected representatives really represent the people, of course, we're going to need to take away control of the corporate media from these criminals so that people can get accurate information. At the same time, we have to ban corporate donations and money being used to control politicians. In other words, temporarily, we're going to need a military government to arrest all these blackmailed and bribed criminals, and then to restore freedom of the press before we can have real elections, and then we can have people who actually represent Americans, which is not what we have in politics now. And then we can start building the kind of future that people want. So the current young generation can afford a house, which they can't now. And again, I think it's probably going to be that 18 to 34-year-old generation that's going to have to take action, because the baby boomers, too many of them are brainwashed and bribed, and they're not going to be able to take action. So it's going to be up to the young people. But I do hope that things are going to happen. But we all need to push. This is a dangerous time now. They are desperate, cornered animals, and they're trying everything they can to make sure that we never ever escape from the digital prison they're building. For example, the fake Trump is just saying states cannot regulate AI because they want to use these huge data centers and face recognition so they can put us under complete mental control before they themselves end up facing war crimes trials. And let's not sugarcoat it. With a fake mercenary company they called Russian, which wasn't. And this was to depopulate that country. This is a genocide. And of course, what's happening in Gaza. And then you have this reality TV guy, Pete Hegseth, pretending he's in charge of the military. He's not. He's not competent to be, and he needs to be arrested along with all the other people. So it's time to take action, folks. But even if you don't, I guarantee you this whole thing will implode. The rest of the world has already been liberated, and I don't see how they're going to be able to kick the can down the road much past maybe mid 2026 at the most. That's what the experts say, looking at the finances, and hopefully it'll all end sooner. But we need to take action. Okay, well that's what I have to say for myself today. Now I'd like to answer questions from readers and viewers.
Hi, Ben. We have our first question for today. You said that the Macrons were in China. Why do you believe that they were not picked up then and there? What are your thoughts?
Well, the Chinese actually obey international law, and they are formally the head of state of France and his wife, supposedly. So the Chinese respect international law, but at the same time, they made it clear they're not going to, provide these people with the money they came begging for, and that'll end it for that regime in France because they are bankrupt. They've lost the ability to steal resources from Africa, and without that, they're going to have to declare bankruptcy and then restructure everything. But what I'm hearing from my French sources is that there's going to be some kind of real regime change. It's not going to be peaceful, and it's going to be violent, and it's going to involve the military. So that's what's going to probably happen in France and probably the rest of the G7. Next question.
Evan, we haven't heard a whole lot about Palestine recently and the Israel invasion. Can you shed a little light about what is going on there right now?
Again, this is a last-minute attempt by these criminals to have a state completely dominated only by their ethnic group, so that they can have a place where they can continue their transnational crime, their pedophilia, and everything else. And we need Egypt and we need Turkey to go in with their armies and clean that place up and replace it with the multi-religious, multi-ethnic state of Judea. And I know there's support across the region for that, and it's time to do it. But the reason I don't follow the situation with Judea or Palestine closely is because it's an endless recurring loop of the same story over and over and over again. The same with the Ukraine. They say, "Oh, we're going to have peace." No, we're not. We're going to have peace. No, we're not. They're turning in circles, and it's time to step in and end that churn. Next question.
Hi, Ben. When the Trump administration bombs the boat from Venezuela, do you believe that they were actually drug smugglers on that boat, or was this some sort of show of force?
They may or may not have been drug smugglers, but it was still a show of force. And even if they were drug smugglers under international military law, that was a war crime, especially when you have it's in the U.S. Legal manual. When you have two people floating, helpless, shipwrecked, unable to, and that should then wake up all the other generals to the fact that they are sworn to obey the law and the Constitution, which a lot of them seem to have forgotten. Next question.
Speaking of Hegseth, what are your thoughts in regards to the White House changing his position from Secretary of Defense to Secretary of War? What's really the point of this?
The point is that they are bankrupt and they're threatening war, they're threatening mayhem and some kind of attempt to steal money. Although, to be honest, calling it Ministry of War is actually more honest. That's what they called it during World War II. And, right now, the way it's been since World War II, it's been an aggressor around the world. They have been waging war everywhere on behalf of people who don't have America's best interests at heart. So, at least they're being honest about calling it Department of War, but we really should have a Department of Defense whose only job should be to defend the American people, not go around stealing oil for the Zionist oligarchs as they do now. Next question.
Hi, Ben. Why are the white hats waiting to arrest these fake actors? What is the purpose for the wait? Do they not have the authority, or is it in regards to their ability?
I think that they're so used to obeying orders that they've been they're like being deer frozen in the headlights. They don't know what to do, and especially over since the Obama regime, only really dumb people have been promoted to the top. So it's going to have to be sold by the colonels, the people who actually do the real fighting, and not the armchair generals. I think that's what has to happen. Next question.
We have our last question for today. I think we're starting to see the upper limits of inflation and public unrest before we hit a breaking point in the United States and many other parts of the world. Do you expect a national or even global market crash or events of proportionate catastrophe to occur within the near future?
Well, it's easy to say there's a bubble. It's hard to say when it's going to pop, But clearly the stock market is way out of touch with any, sort of reality. So when you have Tesla, who's losing market share and whose products are now considered inferior, being worth more than all the other car companies in the world combined. That's just not true. It's fake. Same with all these AI companies, everything else. But the good thing is that the stock market isn't reality, okay? These are just numbers on computers. Even if it crashes and goes to zero, there will still be the same amount of houses, factories, farms, people, knowledge. And personally, I think they should just unplug all the financial system computers and we need to reboot. And start with the elimination of all debt to end debt slavery, and then get people back to work, working on behalf of the United States and the world and the people, and not on behalf of satanic, which is the case now. So I think there should be a controlled implosion of the stock market, and then it needs to be restored to its traditional function of actually assigning value based on traditional metrics. It's no longer the case. Now it's just people with money printing machines using the stock market to launder money to their friends. And that's why the United States real economy is losing to China big time. And if we don't improve our systems of economic governance, we are all going to be working for the Chinese. It's already happening. And it's going to get worse unless we start fixing the real economy and getting out of this virtual fake financialized economy. It's broken. Okay, as an example, you have to have a 50-year mortgage to buy a house, and you spend the first 25 years just paying interest, and you end up paying $1.4 million for a $400,000 house. That house should only cost $10,000, and some kid in his 20s should be able to afford it. That's the sort of system we need. Okay, well, that's what I have to say for myself today, and I hope to see you again next.
Hello, Patriots. I'm at Restored Republic via a GCR update compiled by Judy Byington. President Trump has activated the green light. Be prepared for worldwide emergency alerts as the global military alliance takes over mainstream media, makes mass arrests, and brings in the global currency reset to gold asset-backed monies. Quote from an Anon: after discovering the truth, people are generally afraid of what they might have to change. An awareness that comes with responsibility. That growth can force you to question even the person you thought you were. though it was really a transformation into living in the peacefulness of a new reality. Judy note, we are 24 hours away from an event that will change the world forever. BRICS, NESARA, and quantum financial system were sending shockwaves through the deep state. With gold-backed currencies and secure Q phones, the old order is collapsing. Prepare for a revolution. Carolyn Bessette Kennedy on Telegram. On Wednesday, August 12, 2026, President Trump gave the green light, activated the emergency broadcast system, ordered the global military alliance to take over the mainstream fake news media, make mass arrests. Be prepared for worldwide emergency alerts, blackouts, and 10 days of communication darkness. Why? The takeover of American liberties had been building since the end of the Civil War, when foreign interests took over America's tax system, although the real takeover began in earnest in 2009 when President Obama was fraudulently elected into office. Obama immediately and quietly established a shadow globalist deep state cabal government of radicals to sabotage the American people and their Constitution. The Obama Foundation and DNC network of criminals consisted of over 32,000 radicals with 25,000 more in training. An Obama executive order turned 8,000 civilian generals into a stay-behind army and replaced 6,000 plus of them with Obama deep state loyalists. Radicals were embedded all over the country for the purpose of causing chaos. Supporting them were leading technology companies, the entire left-leaning mainstream media, left-leaning academia, and universities. All have been working with the Chinese Communist Party, to which now the Democrat Party, using Democratic Socialists of America members, pledge their allegiance to the CCP in the takeover of America, and all of them deserve to go to Gitmo, face tribunals, and possibly hung for treason. Funding of these treasonous activities came from American taxpayers through political blackmail by the deep state cabal. Child sex trafficking ring centered in Ukraine and Zionist Israel. All was funded, of course, by U.S. taxpayer monies given by compromised politicians on both sides of the aisle. That's where Epstein, P. Diddy, Bushes, Obamas, and Clintons, and a complex system of underground tunnels, private islands, and massive estates come in, used by the elites for their satanic worship, recorded and filmed for blackmail of politicians to keep the money, keep everyone and all the money in line. The CIA was in charge of blackmail activities. Their sophisticated mind control was perfected in Hitler's Nazi Germany. That's how far back this goes. It goes back even further than that. The Nazis used the ancient knowledge of Satan's pedophile cults, of multi-generational satanic families believed to be the descendants of Cain. And just a quick side note, listening to Jessie Sabodar, she comes from one of these Illuminati families, and they are here. So when the Nazis came over here, and maybe even before, these satanic bloodline families were put all over the place. And so there's like this secret underground, society of Satan worshiping families. They could be your next door neighbors. You wouldn't know it because they hide. They don't, they go to church. Usually it's Catholic churches they go to during the day, and pretend to be good Christians. But by night, they're doing rituals, and they have, probably secret rooms in their basements where they do things like that. It's really creepy. International shipping hubs and port authorities have been placed under strict military quarantine in order to prevent high-profile elite members of the cabal from escaping via private maritime fleets and diplomatic aircraft. Autonomous defense grids have activated across major continental sectors to enforce absolute airspace sovereignty, grounding all unregistered corporate aircraft and intercepting maritime vessels attempting unauthorized transit. Interpol and the Global Military Alliance have executed simultaneous raids on Central Intelligence black site archives, recovering decades of hidden financial records, blackmail vaults, and direct order logs, exposing the cabal's global financial manipulation. Deep within subterranean command nodes, military intelligence teams have successfully extracted the master cryptographic keys to global surveillance networks permanently severing the communication lines of shadow directorates. Simultaneous tactical incursions target deep underwater fiber optic repeaters and orbital relay stations, cutting off the clandestine data loops utilized by international syndicates for market manipulation and coordinate sharing. Special operations teams have confiscated multi-billion-dollar offshore gold reserves and digital asset vaults tied to compromised sovereign wealth funds. Forensic accounting units secure multi-trillion-dollar corporate ledgers hidden inside sovereign tax havens, mapping out the exact capital flows that funded decades of covert geopolitical engineering. There have been mass detentions of senior international corporate directors and financial technocrats who were implicated in designing global supply chain bottlenecks and artificial scarcity networks that served the cabal. Compromised executive boards and corrupt political figures were being transferred directly to secure facilities, including Gitmo. Over 100,000 military tribunal prosecutors and investigators have been deployed across secure jurisdictions to process millions of pages of recovered digital evidence and witness depositions. Evidence has been obtained in many ways. Emergency economic measures have been activated to freeze assets linked to the exposed shell corporations and offshore accounts. Central bank hubs across Switzerland, London, and New York are under direct audit as authorities unwind decades of illicit funding used to sustain global cabal operations. Over 200 major corporate entities, media conglomerates, and pharmaceutical fronts were facing immediate asset freezes. Financial controllers and compliance officers are cooperating with military intelligence to map out the entire liquidity chain and recover hidden funds. The transition to a quantum financial system was accelerating, backed by asset-backed manipulation. Old banking rails were being decommissioned to prevent capital flight by those named in the sealed indictments. Public disclosure broadcasts, EVS alerts, were scheduled to begin across major emergency alert system overrides. Documentary evidence, transaction ledgers, and digital forensics will be released globally and simultaneously. This was the systematic dismantling of the old guard. The financial infrastructure that supported impunity was collapsing. There may come a moment when the signal becomes quiet. A moment when the old internet does not answer the way it used to. A moment when platforms slow down, messages fail, websites disappear, banking apps freeze, payment rails become unstable, and the public begins asking the same question at the same time. What is happening? This is the moment people must remember one thing clearly. Do not panic. When the signal goes dark, fear will try to speak first. Confusion will move quickly. Screenshots will spread. Rumors will multiply. Fake accounts will appear. Scammers will pretend to have answers. Some will claim they can restore access. Some will ask for wallet information. Some will ask for passwords, seed phrases, private keys, documents, or payments. That is why discipline matters. The darkness of a signal does not mean the end. Sometimes it means the old network is being exposed. Sometimes it means weak systems are failing under pressure. Sometimes it means the final cracks are becoming visible before a stronger structure can rise. The people must understand the difference between collapse and transition. Collapse is uncontrolled. Transition is protected. Collapse leaves people lost. Transition requires patience, order, and calm. While the old structure is cleared and the new road is prepared, we, the White Hats, are not here to create fear. We are here to prepare the people for the moment when confusion tries to take control. If the signal goes dark, remain calm. Protect your accounts. Protect your family. Keep your devices secure. Do not click unknown links. Do not trust random messages. Do not give access to anyone claiming to be support. Do not act from panic. The loudest voices during darkness are not always the safest voices. This is why preparation must come before the moment. Follow only trusted sources. Keep important information backed up. Keep your communication calm and direct. Help your family understand that panic is not protection. Fear is not wisdom. Confusion is not truth. The old internet was never built to carry the future that is coming. It was built on weak passwords, exposed identities, fragile platforms. centralized control, hidden tracking, data harvesting, and digital gates that can be closed without warning. A new era requires more. It requires quantum safe protection, verified access, secure identity, cleaner communication, stronger financial rails, systems that protect the people instead of collecting, limiting, and manipulating them. That is why the signal may need to go dark before the new connection becomes visible, not as punishment, not as defeat, but as the final proof that the old network could not protect what comes next. When that moment comes, many will not understand it at first. They will see silence and call it failure. They will see darkness and call it danger. They will see disruption and believe the road has ended. But those who are prepared will understand the signal going dark is not always the end of communication. Sometimes it is the pause between two worlds, the old one losing power and the new one preparing to come online. If the signal goes dark, do not follow panic. Follow discipline. Protect your family. Protect your access. Protect your information. Protect your peace. Share it with your friends, your family, and every patriot who understands that the strongest people are not those who panic first, but those who stay calm when the world becomes quiet. The old signal may go dark, but darkness is not the final message. It is the silence before the new connection. Carolyn Bessette Kennedy on Telegram.
Global currency reset. On Tuesday, the 11th of August 2026, reports from Australia said bondholders were being funded, while other sources said bondholders were promised liquidation of their funds by Wednesday to Thursday, the 13th of August 2026. Other sources claimed that on Friday to Saturday 14, the 15th of August 2026, Tier 4 BUS, the Internet Group would be notified to set redemption, exchange appointments. The Iraqi parliament was expected to release their new dinar rate by Saturday the 14th of August. On Tuesday the 1st of September 2026, the new gold-backed global financial system will be active and redemption centers will be open worldwide in 209 nations. Tuesday the 11th of August 2026. Bruce. Two sources in Canada were able to do exchanges today at one bank, but at lower rates. Confirmed from banking source in Canada, exchanges were taking place in India, Indonesia, and Pakistan. A military source believes Tier 4B will get notifications for Thursday or Friday. 13. The 14th of August and exchange appointments would be made for Friday or Saturday 13, the 15th of August. Judy note, no one knows the exact date for notification of appointments for Tier 4 BES, the Internet Group to exchange foreign currencies, but deadlines shown in the above timing indicate it to be very soon. We have been told that Wells Fargo, which is controlled by the Chinese elders, the ones who own the gold behind the global currency reset, will send out emails to currency and bondholders worldwide telling them how to set redemption and exchange appointments. It is advised to exchange, redeem your foreign currency at an official redemption center RSC rather than a bank. You can only redeem ZIM at RC. The dinar contract rate can only be given at RC, and banks will offer you lower exchange rates than what you can obtain at RC. You can only set up your new wallet bank account at ARC. It was my understanding that most banks were under control of the cabal and would soon play a different role in the global financial system.
What we think we know as of Thursday, August 13th, 2026. Big banks are trying to block pro-crypto policies. They're working overtime to control the narrative and slow down adoption. This is a wake-up call for the crypto community. Wednesday, August 12th, 2026. Follow the money. 11 corporations control 90% of consumer goods. The brands compete, the owners don't. A small number of investment giants hold major stakes across much of the corporate world. The more you look, the more the illusion of choice begins to fade. Wednesday, August 12th, deep within subterranean command nodes, military intelligence teams have successfully extracted the master cryptographic keys to global surveillance networks, permanently severing the communication lines of shadow directorates. simultaneous tactical incursion, target deep underwater fiber optic repeaters and orbital relay stations, cutting off the clandestine data loops utilized by international syndicates for market manipulation and coordinate sharing. Forensic accounting units secure multi-trillion-dollar corporate ledgers hidden inside sovereign tax havens, mapping out the exact capital flows that funded decades of covert geopolitical engineering. Autonomous defense grids activate across major continental sectors to enforce absolute airspace sovereignty, grounding all unregistered corporate aircraft and intercepting maritime vessels attempting unauthorized transit. The transition to distributed local governance and hard asset monetary settlements is now enforced by joint task forces, replacing centralized compliance monopolies. Evidence vaults containing classified medical patents, suppressed energy designs, and advanced propulsion schematics are preparing for public release via decentralized quantum nodes. The architecture of control has been permanently dismantled. Verify all intelligence through secure channels as the new infrastructure comes on.
U.S. debt clock breaking news, $40 trillion alarm. U.S. debt clock blows past the historic mark as America's debt train isn't stopping. U.S. debt clock projects America's national debt above $40.1 trillion as official. Treasury figures close in on the historic $40 trillion mark. See the staggering debt per taxpayer numbers and why America's exploding debt is becoming an urgent issue for Trump, Congress, and the American people. America's debt warning is becoming impossible to ignore. The U.S. debt clock is now projecting national debt above $40 trillion, with the live display at approximately $40.11 trillion. The U.S. debt clock states the figure is algorithmically projected from latest Treasury data. The live $40.11 trillion should not be confused with the latest official Treasury balance. As of August 10, 2026, the latest Treasury-based figure stood at approximately $39.92 trillion. America is extraordinarily close to a $40 trillion national debt, and the U.S. debt clock's real-time projection has already crossed that psychological line. Alongside the projected $40.11 trillion, the clock showed debt per person of approximately $119,735, debt per taxpayer of approximately $286,508, and interest per day of approximately $3.8 billion. These are U.S. debt clock calculations, not official balances. They illustrate the extraordinary scale of federal indebtedness. Washington continues to carry an enormous and growing debt burden. President Donald Trump inherited an enormous federal debt burden when he returned to the White House. But his administration and the current Congress now confront the fundamental responsibility. What will they do from this point forward? That is where an America First fiscal argument becomes genuinely pro-people. Ordinary Americans do not benefit from Washington pointing backward while the debt counter climbs. The real question is whether Washington can finally change its direction. The debt train has moved through Republican and Democratic administrations for decades. Trump and the current Congress now hold responsibility for decisions on their watch. For the American people, the question is simpler than partisan blame. Who is prepared to confront the spending, deficits, interest costs, and pressures that keep pushing the number higher? The warning from the U.S. debt clock is already staring America in the face. The number is getting bigger, the interest bill is growing, and the American people deserve a serious plan to change the trajectory.
Wednesday, August 12th, Barack Obama's Patriot Purge in the U.S. government that created a secret deep state stay-behind army, Edward Snowden on Telegram. This is the origin of the Obama-era deep state that's actively undermining Trump, his administration, and America itself. Even though this has been intelligence ties, this is not the CIA, the FBI, or the NSA. This is another piece of the operation. This is the SES, the Senior Executive Service, created under Carter and weaponized under Obama. In December 2015, one single executive order turned 8,000 civilian generals into a stay-behind army, replaced 6,000 plus of them with Obama deep state loyalists, embedding this army in every single agency. That's our deep state. Department of Education, 86, Department of Housing and Urban Development, 115, Department of Air Force, 182, Department of Labor, 200, Department of State, 204, Department of Transportation, 231. Department of Interior, 258. Department of the Army, 261. Department of the Navy, 326. Department of Veteran Affairs, 357. Department of Agriculture, 361. Department of Commerce, 425. Department of Treasury, 458. Department of Health and Human Services, 468. Department of War, 478. Department of Energy, 490. Department of Homeland Security, 639. Isn't that what FEMA falls under? Department of Justice, 821. All other agencies, non-cabinet, 1,796. These are just the ones we know of. There are more. So, side note, Trump's been trying to, and his administration and the White Hats have been trying to locate who these people are and purge them. Also, I'm guessing every Western nation probably has this form of deep state, like some type of continuity of government, senior executive service, but it's probably titled something different. Obama then gutted the military, 197 flag officers, 9 commanding generals, nuclear commanders, along with thousands of other non-commanding officers. Remember Benghazi? Carter Ham and Chuck Goet fired for trying to save Americans during the horrific Benghazi attack, overseen by Hillary Clinton. Obama wasn't the boss, he was the front man. The SES is the real deep state, the traitorous unelected force, loyal to Obama and other globalist scumbags who are still running the show and embedded in the Trump administration under Trump, but actively working against him. We've already heard people like Project Veritas catching people on, film saying, well, we're trying to slow things down so Trump can't get things accomplished. That's what they're doing. That's who they are. Next time you decide to think everything is so easy, or you think everything can be fixed at the flick of a pen, think again. You have no idea what we're truly up against. But in the end, we will be victorious because the will and passion inside American patriots and the truth itself will always prevail. Judgment is on its way, and it won't be pretty. World under martial law, Global Military Alliance has seized mainstream media, international shipping hubs, port authorities under quarantine, over 80,000 military operations units deployed in financial political capitals as new goal-backed global financial system weapon.
Judy note, word from valid military sources was that on Moan. 10 Aug. 2026, the Global Military Alliance initiated full seizure of the mainstream media broadcasting networks and corporate news headquarters. The transition to worldwide martial law was now 100% complete. The military had complete oversight of critical infrastructure, and the old cabal power structure was unable to recover or communicate. Now all secure broadcast channels were on standby for the imminent broadcast of documentary archives and prosecution logs across all intercepted networks. There was a full deactivation of global satellite communication backbones used by the corporate media and deep state command cells. All was in preparation for implementation of the Emergency Broadcast System, EBS. Interpol and the Global Military Command have executed simultaneous raids on Central Intelligence black site archives, recovering decades of hidden financial records, blackmail vaults, and direct order logs. In the process, the Global Military Alliance exposed direct funding trails to the cabal's global financial manipulation campaigns. The emergency special operations teams confiscated multi-billion-dollar offshore gold reserves and digital asset vaults tied to compromised sovereign wealth funds. Space Force defense units have neutralized foreign satellite infrastructure used by elite cabal networks for encrypted command and control operations. A massive military sweep across elite private islands and subterranean facility networks has confirmed a complete neutralization of rogue operations and underground human logistics nodes. International shipping hubs and port authorities have been placed under strict military quarantine in order to prevent high-profile elites from escaping via private maritime fleets and diplomatic aircraft. Over 80,000 military police and special operations units have been deployed across major financial and political capitals in order to secure critical infrastructure during the ongoing global transition. Allied command structures have confirmed that the asset recovery and trials infrastructure was operating at full capacity. There have been mass detentions of senior international corporate directors and financial technocrats who were implicated in designing global supply chain bottlenecks and artificial scarcity networks. Compromised executive boards and corrupt political figures were being transferred directly to secure facilities. Over 100,000 military tribunal prosecutors and investigators have been deployed across secured jurisdictions to process millions of pages of recovered digital evidence and witness depositions. Evidence has been obtained in many ways. Deep within subterranean command nodes, military intelligence teams have successfully extracted the master cryptographic keys to global surveillance networks, permanently severing the communication lines of shadow directorates. Simultaneous tactical incursions target deep underwater fiber optic repeaters and orbital relay stations, cutting off the clandestine data loops utilized by international syndicates for market manipulation and coordinate sharing. Forensic accounting units secure multi-trillion-dollar corporate ledgers hidden inside sovereign tax havens, mapping out the exact capital flows that funded decades of covert geopolitical engineering. Autonomous defense grids have activated across major continental sectors to enforce absolute airspace sovereignty, grounding all unregistered corporate aircraft and intercepting maritime vessels attempting unauthorized transit. The transition to distributed local governance and hard asset monetary settlement was now enforced by joint task forces that have replaced centralized compliance monopolies. Evidence vaults containing classified medical patents, suppressed energy designs, and advanced propulsion schematics are preparing for public release via decentralized quantum nodes. The architecture of control has been permanently dismantled. The final phases of the systemic restructuring were unfolding. The old paradigm was gone. Emergency quantum broadcast networks were prepared to stream unedited evidence logs and witness testimonies across all intercepted channels worldwide. It was recommended that you maintain secure communications and monitor verified channels for live updates. QFS goes live soon. The fiat system's final days have begun. Redemption centers to activate on September 1, 2026. The countdown has started. The fiat system is crumbling no matter how much they lie. Starting September 1, 2026, redemption centers will go fully live under military protection and begin processing gold-backed transactions through the quantum financial system. This won't be theory. It will be reality. The old financial system will collapse before the eyes of the world, and the cabal won't be able to stop it. Global military units led by Trump's alliance will soon begin massive raids targeting elite-controlled vaults. Stolen gold, off-ledger assets, ritual finance archives, all of it will be seized and redirected into the QFS using advanced light intelligence tech. These hidden reserves are not inside banks. They lie beneath. Mountains, Vatican catacombs, and abandoned NATO bases. The illusion of elite financial control is about to be destroyed. If you still have funds in traditional banks, prepare. Over 12,000 branches are expected to shut down in the weeks ahead. Not downsized. Fully disconnected from the QFS grid. The dollar you know will soon be worthless. Your only access to sovereign wealth will be through redemption centers where you must be verified, scanned, and approved to receive gold-backed USDNs. The cabal, sensing the end, is expected to launch final attacks, EMPs, bioweapons, digital sabotage. A classified plan known as Last Breath is already circulating, including media blackouts, false flags, and infrastructure disruption. But they will fail. Space Force is on standby to intercept EMP threats, with cyber divisions monitoring for viral deployment and digital infiltration. Every weapon they have will be neutralized. Justice is coming. Social security systems are being rebuilt, decoupled from surveillance networks and restructured for sovereign use. You will no longer be treated as a product. Your biometric data will be protected. Behavioral monetization will be banned. Under Trump's Patriot Wealth Directive, restitution and reparation, R&R, payouts will begin mid-February, direct gold-backed compensation for IRS fraud, the planned control grid. It won't happen. CBDCs will collapse. SWIFT will be replaced. The only approved digital assets under QFS will be RLUSD and XRP, both engineered for sovereign, secure exchange. RLUSD will be backed by gold recovered from NATO vaults. XRP will serve as the bridge to eliminate fiat entirely. Every transaction will be tracked, encrypted, and protected by military-grade quantum tech. This is not speculation. This is what's coming. Their world ends. Ours begins September 1, 2026.
On Tuesday, September 1st, 2026, the transition begins. September 1st, the quantum financial system officially moves from testing to live global sync. Major banking grids will begin quiet shutdown procedures as transactions reroute through the QFS network. The Federal Reserve, IMF, and SWIFT systems will freeze cross-border operations, while asset-backed settlements activate in real time. Governments will start recalibrating national ledgers to gold-based reserves. Key nations, the U.S., Netherlands, India, Brazil, and Japan, are confirmed for first-wave integration. Encrypted broadcasts will announce the new digital to physical conversion standard. Expect market volatility, temporary outages, and data synchronization delays. This is the crossover point. Tuesday, August 11, 2026, national emergency. Trump ignites NESARA payouts, $3.5 trillion in seized elite funds, surging to verified patriots as globalists launch desperate sabotage to stop the reset. On Sunday, August 9, 2026, the NESARA storm broke wide open. The old fiat slave system began collapsing in real time as Trump unleashed the greatest wealth transfer in history.
Trillions clawed from the deep state's black vaults were flooding into the quantum financial system, QFS, rerouting straight to awakened Americans. The cabal is panicking, hammering servers, jamming routes, and screaming through their fake news puppets, but they can't stop what's already in motion. Trump flipped the switch on NESARA Tier 1 in late December 2025, activating it silently over the holidays while the world slept. No parades, no pressers, just cold, hard execution. The QFS is live, identities syncing, funds moving through military-secured channels. Over $3.5 trillion in stolen elite wealth is being redistributed. CIA off-ledger slush funds, human trafficking empires hidden in NGO shells, rigged election interference cash from 2020 and 2022, big pharma extortion billions, endless war profiteering loot, all seized and reassigned. These assets blast through 14 fortified nodes across U.S. and European military bases, encrypted, decentralized, untouchable by the Fed, IMF, or any banker vampire. Redemption is rolling in stealth waves. Early verified accounts are lighting up in pre-release mode. But the globalists are fighting dirty. Server attacks, routing blocks, disinformation floods to breed doubt and delay. Timelines stretched. Expect major triggers firing early to mid-September 2026, with final Tier 1 waves pushing into March if the resistance drags on. The next 30-40 days are do or die. Once Tier 1 seals, the door slams shut forever. Elites are bleeding out. $380 billion already vaporized from offshore hideouts. BlackRock and Vanguard empires gutted over crooked contracts. European pension funds hemorrhaging, luxury properties dumped in panic sales. They're cornered, furious, lashing out because their entire parasitic empire is crumbling. But the QFS holds strong, military-grade armor, automated, unstoppable. Payouts push forward for the verified patriots first in line. This is the hammer drop Trump promised. No more debt slavery, no more cabal control. White hats dominate the battlefield, arrests are imminent, the Republic rises from the ashes. The Great Awakening isn't coming, it's here, redistributing the spoils of war back to we the people. Bank glitches will spike in February as the old matrix fractures. Stay vigilant, stay offline where it counts, watch the signs, the storm peaks now. The deep state knows it's over. Their missile blackmail, their rigged elections, their endless grift, all ending under Trump's iron will. We're taking it all back, crushing the New World Order, firing up the Golden Age. Trust the plan. The wealth is flowing, the reset is real, victory is locked in. The cabal trembles, the patriots rise.
Tuesday, August 11, 2026. Global financial reset and asset seizure underway following recent tribunal disclosures. Emergency economic measures have been activated to freeze assets linked to exposed shell corporations and offshore accounts. Central bank hubs across Switzerland, London, and New York are under direct audit as authorities unwind decades of illicit funding used to sustain global operations. Over 200 major corporate entities, media conglomerates, and pharmaceutical fronts are facing immediate asset freezes. Financial controllers and compliance officers are cooperating with military intelligence to map out the entire liquidity chain and recover hidden funds. The transition to a quantum financial system is accelerating, backed by asset-backed currencies. Deemed to eliminate debt-based manipulation, old banking rails are being decommissioned to prevent capital flight by those named in the sealed indictments. Public disclosure broadcasts are scheduled to begin across major emergency alert system overrides. Documentary evidence, transaction ledgers, and digital forensics will be released simultaneously globally to ensure full transparency. This is the systematic dismantling of the old guard. The financial infrastructure that supported impunity is collapsing. Stay informed and verify all updates through secure channels.
Mass arrests, detentions, evidence gathering. Tier 4B secures mainframe access to central intelligence and deep state data servers, exposing direct funding trails to global manipulation campaigns. Emergency special operations teams confiscate multi-billion-dollar offshore gold reserves and digital asset vaults tied to compromised sovereign wealth funds. Mass detentions of senior international corporate directors and financial technocrats implicated in designing global supply chain bottlenecks and artificial scarcity networks. Space Force defense units neutralize foreign satellite infrastructure used by elite cabal networks for encrypted command and control operations. Over 100,000 military tribunal prosecutors and investigators deployed across secured jurisdictions to process millions of pages of recovered digital evidence and witness depositions.
What we think we know as of Wednesday, August 12, 2026. Tuesday, August 11th, Supreme Court breaking. Justice Alito is staying. Trump celebrates. Great news for our country. Tuesday, August 11th, 2026, explosive report. Mamdani video goes viral. His own words about identity and political power. Tuesday, August 11th, breaking. He's free. Trump helps bring Marine veteran Robert Gilman home after 1,666 days in Russia. No prisoner swap, no concessions.
It's Wednesday. It's the 12th of August, 2026. Everything you're watching is a movie. It's a pantomime. It's been going on for a lot longer than what you'd ever imagine. They've set this all up so that you were ready for this sort of grand finale of this movie. I was doing some research this morning, having had a conversation with a good friend of mine from Pakistan, who told me that in the 1950s and the 1960s, Pakistan had an agreement with the United Kingdom to get rid of a group of uneducated Pakistanis, people they didn't want in Pakistan. This was back in the 1950s and 1960s. And these Pakistanis were from a place called Mirpur, M-I-R-P-U-R. They're Mirpuris. They have a tendency to rape their own mothers and sisters. They are completely uneducated. The Pakistanis didn't want them anymore because they were a problem. And somehow, behind your back and my back, the British government brought them into the UK and settled them in London, in Birmingham, in Luton, in the whole of the Midlands, Middle England. And today, there's around 70% of the Pakistanis in the UK from that part of the world, from that part of Pakistan. Today, 70% of the Pakistanis are the unwanted Pakistanis that Pakistan didn't want, that we took in the 50s and 60s. Now, I will say that I know some very, very good, intelligent, nice men and women from Pakistan. They know this, and they are sick and tired of being tarred with the same brush. But it's important that we point out the facts. The facts are the British government took these undesirables and integrated them into the UK. And this is why we have the problem in the UK of the rape gangs, because it's in their DNA. They're used to raping their mothers and their sisters. It's in their DNA. And we're now seeing it in Europe with the undesirables from Africa and the Middle East, the Islamic extremists that their own countries don't want. And in the case of the Moroccans that were entered into Ceuta, the northern coast of Africa, where there's a Spanish area, an enclave, where they invaded, 20,000 of those were let out of prison with a pardon. They again were undesirable and unwanted. And they've been trying to push these people into Europe. So why are they doing it? The question is why? Why would they let these people out of prison and push them into Europe and the UK and also America? Why? Well, it's all part of a long, long agenda. This agenda goes back 50 years, maybe 70 years. It goes back to destabilize the UK, Europe and America so that they can usher in their one world government. So that we go, our government can't even deal with it. So they'll come up with a solution. We've got a one world government. This was their plan all along. So that your country being filled with undesirables is not by mistake. It's by design. And when you wake up to that fact, you'll realize what's going on. And you'll have a big problem, because the undesirables, as an example, from Somalia, from Pakistan, from North Africa, they don't want them back. They don't want them back. They don't want them in their countries. They're happy because their prison population has gone down. Their costs have gone down. It's our problem now. But as I've said many times in life, preventing a problem is far easier than providing a solution to a problem, because the solution to the problem is not an easy one. The UK is now in a complete mess. Europe is in a complete mess. England, Germany and France are on the verge of total bankruptcy, run by puppets that have been installed by the deep state and the cabal to collapse it so they can bring in their one world government. My question to you is the same one I've asked you for 7 years. Are you awake yet? Morning, Drew.
Good morning, Charlie. Good morning, everyone. A California city has declared a state of emergency after a major cyber attack disrupted government computer systems, including 9/11 and emergency communications. Suisun City Hall remains closed. Federal agencies are investigating, and officials are now considering a demand reportedly made by the attackers.
This is all something we're going to see. It started in California. We're going to have cyber attacks. It started in California. It's going to be across Europe, across the UK, across the world. We had one in Spain where we had no electric for virtually a whole day. It causes chaos. And this is how they manipulate you, because if you live in fear, you're very easy to manipulate. And if you don't live in fear, you're not. I don't live in fear. This is what I'm trying to prepare my audience for, is what they're doing right now is trying to make you live in fear. Whether it's to do with Ukraine or Iran or Venezuela or the Straits of Hormuz, it's all about creating fear. Because I'll tell you right now, the deep state are in complete panic. They're losing control. But they don't just give up. They've had control all their lives. Now they're losing it. And they don't like it. And they're not going to let go easily. They're going to cause all kinds of distractions. And if they can shut down the power, they can shut down the fuel, they can shut down the internet, they will. They'll do anything to make you scared. Now, both Drew and I, if they shut down the internet, we'd be able to sit back and relax. There's a lot of people out there that would go into complete and utter panic mode because they depend on the internet, whether it's for their YouTube channel, their TikTok channel, their Instagram channel, or whether it's just paying for stuff. Because if the internet goes down, the credit card machines don't work because they depend on the internet. So unless you've got some cash, you can't do anything. We've warned you about this for a long time. The person out there that has a little bit of cash, a little bit of food set aside for these attacks that are coming, and they'll come to you very, very soon, they're real. All we're trying to do is prepare you for them. And if you get away with not having one, well done. But by the law of averages, it's going to happen to you one day. So be prepared. That's all we say. Be prepared. Drew.
Next up, Britain is on course for its hottest summer on record, while a major wildfire continues to burn in the New Forest. Nearly 3/4 of England is now affected by the drought conditions, with reservoirs and rivers under increasing pressure. They're taking our water and cooking us like chickens, Charlie.
They certainly are. Well, in my case, they're cooking them like turkeys. But yeah, you're absolutely right. We were told to watch the water. They're trying to take it away. There's fires everywhere. They're doing everything they can to destroy the planet on the way out because they've lost control of it. And this evening, we've got Derek Johnson on the Insiders Club. And he's going to be explaining to you the laws and orders of what's going on that you can't see. Because I can assure you that God is fully in control of what's happening. But from a visual point of view, we're watching the dismantling of an old system. There's no way that they can win. The other thing I would say to you is it's very important that you don't just stop. I spoke to somebody yesterday who just stopped. They're waiting for everything to happen. I'm getting on with my life, staying close to God. I'm currently in Singapore. I've been in Dubai. I've been in Abu Dhabi. I'm going to be in Istanbul. I'm going to be back in Malaga. I carry on with what I'm doing. And if God stops me, I'll stop. But in the meantime, I will carry on doing what I have to do. Because you can't just stop and wait for things to happen. There's too many people whose lives have just come to a stop because they've believed the people out there that have misled them that it's going to happen tomorrow. Nobody knows exactly when it's going to happen. It's going to happen at the right time. And God is testing each and every one of us to see where we're at. God wants you to keep working, to keep focused, to do what you can. There are many people that have already started their humanitarian work, and God is watching.
Command authorizes nationwide emergency broadcasting overrides to transmit 10 days of hidden documentary evidence and confessions directly to all public screens. The emergency deployment of Space Force communications relays to lock down secure quantum channels and block corporate media censorship entirely. Mass seizures of underground medical facilities and subterranean transit. Hubs across North America and Europe by combined special operations forces. International banking consortia and central ledger systems confirmed completely offline as the full transition to asset-backed currency protocols takes effect. Over 150,000 sealed indictments unsealed simultaneously across federal districts, triggering immediate asset freezes and executive detention orders for international corporate titans and compromised media executives. Sun. 9 Aug. 2026. Mass cyber blackouts neutralize corporate data centers and deep state communication backbone.
Global intelligence alliances have confirmed that secure military tribunals are now in session around the clock. The scale of the documentation recovered from secure servers ensures that all involved actors face immediate prosecution under war crime jurisdiction. Citadel protocols remain active worldwide. Civilian governance structures are replaced by direct operational command to maintain absolute public security during the systematic dissolution of the old elite class. This is the turning point. The network is deconstructed. Stay plugged into secure channels for continuous disclosure logs as the new paradigm unfolds.
And the National Quantum Initiative Act, the financial revolution uncovered. And the National Quantum Initiative Act, for centuries, governments and financial elites have used money as a means of control, perpetuating cycles of debt and economic instability. The very monetary systems we've depended on have acted as tools of manipulation, limiting freedom and opportunity for individuals worldwide. But imagine a paradigm shift, a revolutionary financial framework capable of dismantling these chains and fostering global prosperity. Enter the quantum financial system, QFS, an AI-driven, asset-backed financial model that seeks to transform the global economy. Unlike the current fiat-based system, susceptible to manipulation by central banks and governments, the QFS is grounded in tangible assets like gold, platinum, and silver. It offers a secure, transparent, and incorruptible alternative aimed at eradicating the vulnerabilities of the paper-based monetary system. The QFS operates in alignment with the National Quantum Initiative Act, a legislative push to advance quantum technologies critical for powering this groundbreaking financial infrastructure. In tandem with this initiative, concepts like NESARA, GSARA, and digital currencies, such as Ripple's XRP, are poised to usher in an era of unprecedented financial freedom and fairness. The Quantum Financial System, QFS. The QFS marks a monumental departure from traditional banking and fiat currencies, which derive their value solely from government declarations. Under the current system, inflation, debt, and economic crises are rampant, affecting individuals and entire nations. The QFS proposes a solution, anchoring the monetary system to real, tangible assets, by backing the system with gold, platinum, and silver. The QFS ensures stability and prevents governments from inflating currency by printing money arbitrarily. This asset-backed approach protects individuals and businesses from the devastating consequences of financial mismanagement. Additionally, the QFS integrates artificial intelligence, AI, to guarantee transparency, accountability, and incorruptibility. Transactions are verified in real time, enabling secure and instantaneous cross-border payments while eliminating human errors and opportunities for corruption. This AI-powered transparency represents a true revolution in the global financial landscape. XRP. The bridge currency of the QFS, central to the QFS's functionality, is Ripple's XRP, a digital asset designed to revolutionize international payments. Ripple has been a pioneer in the cryptocurrency sector, focusing on reducing costs and delays associated with cross-border money transfers. XRP's scalability, speed, and security make it an ideal fit for the demands of the QFS, which will operate globally and continuously. Ripple's XRP ledger can process vast volumes of transactions almost instantaneously, ensuring the QFS remains efficient and effective. As the world transitions away from fiat currencies, XRP is well-suited to act as a bridge currency, facilitating seamless exchanges between different asset-backed currencies within the QFS ecosystem. Moreover, the International Standard for Financial Messaging positions XRP as a key player in the QFS. This alignment ensures smooth integration into the evolving global financial infrastructure, where standardization and interoperability are becoming increasingly critical.